life through the way that we breathe. And breathwork has been an absolutely phenomenal game-changing thing that I have implemented. I did my training many, many years ago with breathwork, and it's something that my partner and I even get one of Wim Hof's breathwork practitioners out to our home, and we take part in breathwork on a really regular basis because we just know the power of it. Now, what actually happens during breathwork, and she's going to tell you all about this, but if you do certain breathwork sequences, your pineal gland is where you secrete DMT. Now, we secrete DMT at birth and at death. And DMT, as a lot of you probably are familiar with, is something that puts us into a hallucinogenic state. Now, through certain breathwork sequences, we actually have the ability to access and release that DMT so that we can see things beyond this dimension, which is really freaking powerful. And it's an amazing catalyst to release old emotions, as I said. So we're going to be delving into that. And the reason that I thought we'd do it at the end of the day is because you guys have so much awareness around who you are and what you're here to do. You can see very clearly the patterns and the behaviors. You can really release your beliefs that are associated with all of this. And then we're going to finish it off with a beautiful sequence at the end of the day to make sure that you're optimal for tomorrow. So what we're going to start with today, guys, is something that I call the path to achievement. And this is just going to enable you to see with clarity exactly what you're experiencing at different stages of your journey. And it's really straightforward and simple, but I like to break everything down into a really relatable manner so that we can really clearly see at different stages of our growth and development why we may be feeling stretched and why we may be feeling like we're in a bit of overwhelm, or when something doesn't quite go as we plan, why this potentially could be. So this is really simple, and then we're going to delve into creating a cycle from a place of flow as opposed to a place of force. But I really want you guys to understand this concept first, because then what we're going to do is talk about what actually impacts this and the way that we are relating and the proximity of our relationships. We're going to talk about our beliefs. We've already spoken about our habits and behaviors, and we've already spoken about optimization. But these are the pieces that actually affect this process and are going to exacerbate if something needs to shift. So the path to achievement, we start here, and there's going to be another handout that goes up into the group, but this is our comfort zone. And a lot of you can probably relate that this is where you've maybe been sitting for far too long. You've just been sitting cushy and cozy, and the little picture or the diagram that we have on the handout is actually someone just kicking back in a couch. You know, they're reading a book, they're watching Netflix, they're not really doing a whole lot with their life, but they're pretty comfortable. And the thing about our comfort zone is, although it can sometimes be really mediocre and sometimes even really shitty, it's familiar. And what we usually do as human beings is we opt for the most familiar thing. We opt for the thing that we know what to expect there. And it's like when we're in that really disempowered relationship. You know, maybe you've been in an abusive relationship before, and it's not that you know it's great. It's not like you have this misguided perception that it's a great relationship. It's actually really shit. And you're in a whole lot of pain being in this relationship, but you know what to expect there. Like, you know what to expect from that person, so you stay in the familiarity. And it's no different. And you guys are going to understand how every aspect of our life, especially the way that we relate and what we settle for, it also correlates with how we relate within our business and how each area of our life absolutely impacts one another. So when we're in our comfort zone, we're sitting back and we're cushy and cozy, and then all of you are at the stage where you've gone, all right, it's time for me to move outside of that. It's time for me to move into what we call the testing grounds. Now, the testing grounds, the diagram that we use in the testing grounds is like a forest. And you're trekking through this forest and you can't really see the other side. You know that you're moving towards this goal or this, you know, let's call it a castle. It's like a big shiny castle on the other side of this forest. And you've just been sitting cushy and cozy within your little cottage, and you decide to embark on this journey into this forest. And during that time, you know, you're going to experience maybe some rain, maybe you're going to trip over and step back up and brush yourself off. And there's maybe going to be some unexpected things that happen there because you don't quite know what that journey looks like. And there's a whole lot of uncertainty, right? So we're just going to maneuver and we're going to duck and weave and we're going to move through that forest. And what a lot of people do is they decide to get outside their comfort zone and they step into those testing grounds. And then the first thing goes wrong. Maybe there's a bit of rain. Maybe there's something that's completely thrown left field. Maybe in the way of failure, we fall over. And then what a lot of us do is we just don't have the ability to get back up and keep going. So we opt back to our comfort zone because we know what's familiar there. And how many of you can relate? I know I've done it multiple times in previous relationships that I've decided to leave the relationship. And then I go out there and I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Oh, hang on, no, it's unfamiliar. I'm going to opt back for that relationship, even though I know it's really shit. And it's no different in business. We get out there and then there's something scary that happens, or we're stretching our capacity. We're in those testing grounds, or maybe we screw up. Maybe we say something on a live video that was really bad and we judge ourselves for it. So then we go back here. And then a lot of people spend their whole life going like this between these two, because they don't have the courage to keep going through the testing grounds to get to the other side. Because that's when you achieve the goal. And the diagram that we like to use is like this big shiny castle. You've reached this big shiny castle and it's all that you imagined, and you feel really proud of yourself and you've achieved the thing and you've made the move. But then after a while, you know what happens? This castle becomes a new comfort zone. How many of you can relate that you've achieved that goal and then after a certain amount of time, you're like, oh, really cushy and cozy here. So then we've got to get back out there into the testing grounds. And this is literally the entirety of our journey. When we choose to grow and evolve, when we choose to be more than just mediocre, when we choose to go after what we truly want in this lifetime, it actually takes a huge level of courage to move through the testing grounds. But not only that, when we achieve the goal and we find the new comfort zone, to get back out there and do it again. Does that make sense? Perfect. I want you guys to even type in the boxes below, where in your life have you been in this space for far too long? Type it in the box below. Awesome. Awesome. Totally. And then what a lot of us do is, because we step into the testing grounds and we have this this pattern that may be on repeat throughout our entire life. I had this conversation the other day with a client, you know, that we're all in and we go so full steam ahead that we end up getting to that place that we actually burn out, that we've given it so much, you know. And this is where it's really important to prioritize your energy, you know, to know when you're going too hard. And especially females, you know, like we're totally different. We're made of, like, our hormone composition is completely different, and we're a little more sensitive than males in that way. So it's really important for you to know that when you are in that space of motivation and inspiration, that you can absolutely go after what you desire, but make sure that you are focusing on long term as opposed to this short term of knowledge, of action, you know, that you're actually sustaining it so that you can sustain it for the rest of your life as opposed for the first month, because this is where we reach burnout and fall off the bandwagon. Awesome. Okay, so what I want to cover with you guys before we delve into relationship dynamics and all the things is just some places where a lot of us take action from. And I think this is going to be a relevant topic that we talk about over the weekends, because what I've understood about my journey is that it was always easy, as I said earlier, for me to take the action. I never had a problem with just, getting out there and having the work ethic and taking the action. But this is where the alignment piece really comes into play. What I realized was throughout that journey, I was taking action from a place of pain. I was stepping outside of my comfort zone from a place of pain. And I speak about intention all the time. Like everything that you do, whether it's within your business, whether it's within your personal life, everything comes back to the intention behind it. And this is the important thing to understand about coming from that place of pain when you were taking action. And let me embellish on this. So I know for me, for a long period of time, I would in fact step outside of my comfort zone and have these big dreams and desires because I wanted to prove someone wrong. I wanted to prove someone wrong. And this is the awareness that you actually get to sit with, whether it's over this afternoon or whether it's something you sit with tonight. What is the intention and the motivation behind what you were doing? Is it coming from a place of pain or is it coming from a place of potential? And there's a vast difference. I'm going to map it out with you, the difference between a force and a flow cycle. Because what I saw was like, I wanted to be successful. I grew up in obviously an entrepreneurial family, but people that were outside of my family, still within the family dynamic, but not my immediate, they were very much under the assumption that in order to be successful, you had to go to university and get this, that, and the other degree. And, even my grandparents, they put a lot of judgment and criticism onto myself and my brother because university wasn't actually the thing that I wanted to do. And following the advice, which I'm so grateful for now, of my mum, actually going after what I was passionate about, money was always a byproduct of it. But to prove these people wrong, I was operating from this deep state of pain. I was always like, I have to take action because I've got to show them. And how many of you can relate to either, maybe it's an ex-partner, you leave that relationship and you're like, I'm going to show you that I am totally fine without you. Or maybe, it's a family member like myself. Or maybe it's that you've been through this deep level of hurt and you feel like you've got to do something with that hurt, that you've taken action from a state of pain. Can anyone relate? Put your hand up if you can. Totally. Veronica, I can see your smile from ear to ear. And I'm just going to teach you about, because, talking about sustainability and talking about prioritizing that energy, but also having that willingness to step into the testing grounds, you're going to see the vast difference between a force cycle that is based on pain and a flow cycle that is actually based on potential. And this is something that I'm constantly assessing within myself and within my business. When I have that hit of motivation or that hit of inspiration, I'll always tune in and just become aware of like, okay, what is the true intention behind this? Am I feeling hurt in any way, shape or form? Am I taking action from the wrong place? Or is it because I'm standing in my highest potential, my highest self, and I'm just simply basing every piece of action from that? Make sense? Perfect. Okay, so to start with, this is a pain cycle, and I want you guys to write it down so that you're retaining the knowledge, but you'll also see that there is a handout in the group as well. So we're starting with pain. It's like, I'm going to prove him wrong. Yep, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm feeling really hurt inside, so I'm going to go out there and suppress all of my emotions and feeling and just get into action. So then we get into action. And then what happens when we take action? I mean, when we take action of any kind, it's the most important piece of the manifestation, process, is actually actioning it. So many people speak about manifestation and, even The Secret was written on law of attraction. And that was like the biggest disappointment of my entire life, because I was like, doesn't really make sense to give people this idea that they can like maybe go for a walk in the morning and hope and pray, or they can sit in meditation and they can hope and pray and have positive affirmations, and then it's just going to like appear out of nowhere. Like, I tried that. I wish that worked. But the most important piece is that it starts with that, right? It starts with that belief. It starts with that affirmation. It starts with that knowing. But then we actually act in accordance with it. Like, we have to take the action. So whenever we take action, irrelevant of where it's from, We're always going to get a result. And we get that result, and that's awesome. This process feels really forced, right? The analogy that I use, it's like pushing a wheelbarrow up a hill. We still have to take the action, whether we're going up the hill or down the hill. We still have to use our legs to walk. We still have to engage our muscles to get it up there or down there. But when you're in a force cycle, it's like going up the hill. It's harder. It takes more of you. It requires more energy, more input. And then I'll show you the flow cycle, and it's like pushing a wheelbarrow down a hill. Yes, you still have to take action, but it's effortless. There's momentum. It feels good. So then what happens with a force cycle, we start with the pain. We take the action. We take the action in any way, shape, or form, irrelevant of the intention. We're always going to get a result of some kind. Maybe it's not the result that we desired, but there's always going to be a result. And then here, we become complacent because it never started with the right intention. And then our complacency leads back into more pain. So we're constantly in this loop throughout the entirety of our life. We get this hit of pain, and so many people, like for a large majority of my life, this is where I operated from, and I wondered why I was so burnt out all the time. And I wondered why my action was so erratic. Because I was always operating from pain. So then I take the action, get the result. Yes, I've got the result. After a while, I become complacent. Can't really be bothered taking any more action because my bank account looks pretty good. Hang on, Amy. Did you say the screen's glitchy?
Yeah, it's like
keeps freezing.
Can't really see what's written.
Okay. Let me try this. 2 seconds, guys. How's that? Is that better?
No. Not really. It's still a bit like fuzzy.
And it's when you move, it seems to kind of, I wasn't sure if it was our internet, but I think other people.
Okay. Is anyone else having trouble with it? Is it glitchy for anyone else? Is it glitchy now?
It's better now.
It's gone a bit better.
Okay.
The internet.
Hang on 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone else is fine now. Okay, perfect. Let's keep
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so can you guys see that really clearly? Perfect. All right. So you can see, and I know when, hang on, I digress. All right. So you get the results, and you've got the result, and maybe that's a result of like having 50 grand in your bank account. And then you've got the 50K in your bank account, and then you become complacent because you're like, oh, well, don't really need to do anything. I've got enough money to sustain me for this length of time, right? And then all of a sudden, because you've been so complacent, you've spent all of your money and you've gone straight back into pain because you're like, oh shit, I got to do the thing again. So then again, you're looping back through this whole cycle of force. And this creates so much ebbs and flows within your business because business is about sustainability. And there's moments where I actually reflect, like sometimes I'll have to pinch myself and go, oh my God, look how far I've come. What was the thing? Like, why have I moved so much faster than other people? I've simply just been consistent. That's it. I just do the same thing every day. I take the same level of action. I do the same amount of internal work. All right. Okay, as opposed to flow. And this is where we all want to be operating from. Can anyone relate to a time in your life where you've just felt you've got this momentum and it's so effortless and it's easy and it feels good and you're not stressed? Put your hand up if you can relate. It's just flow.
Hey, Krista.
Yeah, beautiful.
So my thing is like, I get into these phases of flow, right? And I feel like I'm flowing and I'm creating stuff and it's feeling amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a few weeks down the track, it starts to feel like force again. And I'm like, oh, this is harder. And part of me thinks, okay, maybe I'm out of my genius because I'm like you, I'm a creator, I'm all the upfront stuff and I get bored. But the other part of me is like, well, maybe it wasn't from flow to begin with.
Totally.
And I'm still trying to get clear on that, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess it's asking yourself the intention of the initial part of it, you know, because it's easy. Whether we leverage pain or whether we leverage pleasure, we're always going to get a result. And sometimes pain can actually be a more powerful leverage to use.
Mm.
But it's really in the initial stages, having the understanding of what that intention is. Because pain, leveraging pain is not necessarily going to be sustainable. And I can tell you right now, some of the wealthiest people in the world have only leveraged pain. They've always leveraged, you know, the fact that maybe they had a rough upbringing. Maybe they've been told at school that they weren't going to equate to anything. Maybe they've had an abusive father that put them down and they wanted to. And I know in my dad's situation, you know, he leveraged pain for a long period of time because he wanted to be nothing like his parents.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely leveraging a little bit of significance still. I think that might be it. It's like an underlying thing that's always there.
Yep.
And give me something to think about.
Totally. All starts with awareness, right?
Yeah.
Super powerful. Okay, so a flow cycle is starting with potential. We start with our potential. We start with a knowing that we're here for more. We start with a belief that we're here to create impact. The intention is usually contribution, love, making a difference. Then we take action. But when we take action from our potential, from that highest self, it feels so good. It's not erratic. It's almost gentle. I feel like action's too much of a masculine word to even use. It's just like it's one foot in front of the other and each step creates ripples. And then we get a result. And the result usually is more than what we expected. It's fast. There was no stress involved. And it leads into belief. Belief that you actually can do it. Belief that you are here for more. Belief within your highest version. And then that belief amplifies our potential. And then we realize that we are better than what we actually thought. Right?
Hey, Krista, can I just quickly ask something?
Sure.
So I've experienced this flow cycle before, which I agree feels amazing. But then I find that sometimes when I'm in flow and the ripples happening and everything just seems to feel like it's aligned, something will come up and trigger off like a core belief in me, like that fear of judgment, that self-doubt, and it stops me. So even when I'm in the flow cycle, I feel like I can be blocked really easily. So I find that I can be in flow quite easily, but I get stopped very quickly too.
Totally. And I think that what's really important for all of you to understand is that it's not always going to be like this. Right? Like with darkness comes light, with ups come down, with left comes right. Everything is always in balance, whether we want to believe it or not. Right? So it's not just all going to be, flow. But what's important is that when we are feeling like there's a bit more force involved, or when there's contrast, Tara, thank you. When we are at those stages where we're being blocked or tested, or we have something that's thrown, left field, it's our resilience and our ability to pivot and not be affected by it that's going to enable us to experience this far more frequently.
Okay, great.
And this comes back to the boundaries that you have in place. This comes back to the relationship that you have with yourself. This comes back to the way that you relate and the proximity of people that you are, surrounded in. It comes back to the acknowledgement of your behaviors. It comes back to not being affected or identified by people in your external world and their perception of you, right? So it's like building that internal realm to be so strong and so resilient that no matter what gets thrown at you, you still have the ability to move back into this.
Great.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is really important. And I think the reason that I share this is because these are the pieces that we're covering that are going to impact this, because we're going to be delving deep into the structure and the strategy over the next coming days. But I want you to make sure that you're operating as often as you possibly can from a state of flow. And I can see the vast difference even in my result. When I launch a program that is from pain because I have to, or it's something that is instead of I get to do it, or it's something that I've felt like, I need to do something that someone else is doing. So it's more so coming from a place of comparison. The results that I get based on that, as opposed to something coming through in a meditation and it may be not making sense, but I launch it anyway, the difference in results is vast. And I will feel anything that is from flow, any program that I create or any event that I create from flow is always maximized in the result that I get, because it's aligned, right? And that's what alignment feels like. It feels like flow. Amazing. Do you guys have any questions before we delve in further? You can see Veronica typing at rapid speed. Do you have any questions, sister?
I know, I'm good. I was writing to someone else, but no, I totally agree with what you're saying, 100%, because I booked the office. I didn't even have it full on Thursday, and then 4 people came to me this week, and then I just did that call. Another 2 people want to work with me, and this is because I'm talking about what I love and not trying to talk about what I thought I had to talk about, which I fucking hated talking about anyway, and I was out of integrity. So everything you're saying is like completely true, but sometimes it, depending on where people are, it just takes a bit of time to actually get honest with yourself and say you like that topic or you hate that topic.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Now, all of these things that we have, like even in the path to achievement, I want to delve a little bit into relationships and dynamics. And throughout this process, I think that this is a topic that I could literally speak on for hours on end. I want to keep it straightforward and simple, because I think that relationships are something that we get to delve deep into. And especially since Kerwin and I have been together, we've definitely delved deep into dynamics and relationships and trauma bonding and our old blueprints, and really looking at everything that either serves us or it doesn't. Thank you, V. So we're going to look at relationships and proximity in every aspect of your life, because how it all ties in is if you're going through this growth journey and you're wanting to step into those testing grounds as often as possible, and you're surrounded in people that are pulling you back down, or you're allowing them to pull you back down, and they're so disempowered, you are never going to give yourself permission to do so. Right? So I'm going to start by asking you, and this is all around proximity. We're going to start here, and then we're going to talk about the dynamics of a relationship. Who are the top 5 people of influence in your life? I want you to write them down. So you may not even have the awareness that maybe your mum and dad are still a huge influence in your life, and you don't consider them of influence, but they actually are. So who are the top 5 people that you associate with the most regularly? Write them down. And if your partner's not on there, they must be.
Is it just who's around you most, or is that what it is?
Yeah. The top 5 people that you spend your most time with.
Even if it's not chosen time.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Because they're of influence. So Sarah Ann, in your circumstance, it'd be, who do you speak to the most? Doesn't have to be family. It could be friends, could be colleagues. Who are you spending your most of your time with?
Krista, does this include people that we interact with online more rather than just physically in person? Like myself, all my family are still in the UK, but I do talk to them pretty much every day.
Yeah. So it would really be, who's in your ear the most?
Okay.
Right? So I know for me, it would be Kerwin would be number 1, and Ayana, my daughter, would be number 2, mum and dad, and then probably Janelle's the closest of proximity. But then outside of that, it's like we associate with Michael Lane, who owns Success Resources. I have a lot of other, friends here that are in the coaching and personal development space. But my top 5 are the people in closest proximity that I'm always hearing from, and I'm always absorbing, whether it's conscious or subconscious, I'm always absorbing everything that we are speaking about. And then if you finish that, I want you to write next to each name on a scale of 0 to 10. So 0 being they do not empower me at all. 10 being I feel so lit up after spending time with them. On a scale of 0 to 10, how do you feel when you're around them? I'll give you 2 minutes. Yes, beautiful.
Just so what if somebody is very empowering and wants the best for you, and they're also not kind of in that mindset? So they're like a support, but they're not really pulling you up. They're kind of just holding your back. So they're like really empowering, but they're not really pulling you.
So what's the quality of your conversations? Are your conversations positive or are they negative?
Positive, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that person's great to have in your life. Totally.
Are you there, Krista?
Yes, beautiful.
So I have someone in my life that I spend a little bit of time around,
Yep.
a lot of time. Well, she's actually my sister-in-law, and she's very quite negative. And so our conversations though I never go and speak negative with her. I feel like when I bring perspective and be this positive person, that I challenge her a lot.
Yep. She triggered by you?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spend like a lot of time, and she does really quite annoy me, in a lot of ways, I guess. But yeah, I feel like I'm always challenging her.
I would limit, like, how do you feel when you're associating with her?
I don't really like it at all.
Perfect. I'd limit your time as often as possible.
Yeah, we've cut it down to like one visit per week, but I kind of want to cut it more. Yeah.
Cut it. Right. Personally, I would cut it completely if that was me, but I'm a little cut.
I've tried, but like it puts Sam like
in a position.
Yeah, he doesn't like confrontation, and yeah, so I can see where it comes from. So we had it where she used to like live with us, and then that stopped, and then we've gotten down to one visit per week, but I want to cut it to maybe like once a month or something.
Mm-hmm. Totally, do it. Ask for what you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And ask with absolute certainty, because your relationships are absolutely going to be playing the biggest amount of impact in your life.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I used to be a massive people pleaser, and I used to just keep everyone around and hope and pray that I could help them in some way, shape or form. And then I'd be giving and giving and giving. And then I'd feel, because all of these people were trauma bonders, that I would feel like I would walk away and be tapped, completely tapped out.
And I'm like fighting with my own mind sometimes, because she'll say stuff and I'm like, do not take that in, do not absorb that, Adele, that's not for you, that's her like limiting belief and fear. And then I feel exhausted.
Yeah.
Like I'm like fighting with myself not to like feed into that.
Yeah.
And I'm like challenging her, and I've spent years doing it, and I haven't really made the impact that I kind of wanted to. So
totally. Teacher appears when the student's ready, sister, and you're probably too close to her.
Yeah.
To actually make impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, you know, the thing is, like my brother, for instance, he went through a really hard stage, you know, a couple of years ago now. And back then I was really wanting to just like pretty much shove my opinion down his throat and like make him listen to me. And he wasn't ready. Like he wasn't ready. I wanted to be that shining light and be that, you know, assistance that he required. And I knew everything that I had learned would absolutely benefit me, but he wasn't ready. And it's interesting because the moment that I actually let go and I started to embody, you know, all of the changes that I knew, but I started to embody it, I became an inspiration for him through my actions, not through what I was saying. And when he was ready, he came to me and said, hey, you know what you said all of those years ago? I get it. I get it. And I wish I listened to you back then, but obviously I wasn't ready to hear it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's exhausting. If something is tapping out our energy, I just won't do it ever. My energy is so valuable because it's not just me, it's what I give to the world. And I know so many people rely on me in that way.
Yeah.
It's my energy that I give to my daughter. It's my energy that I give to my family. It's my energy that I give to my partner and my stepson. Like it's not just mine. Right? And if someone's in my proximity that is tapping that out, and it's enabling me to actually not have the reserves for everyone else in my life that I truly value, I will cut it off.
Yeah.
At the speed of light. And if you look at it from that perspective, like rather than just like, it makes me feel shit, well, it actually impacts the way that I show up. For my kids, for my partner, for all of these people that I truly value. And if you truly value them, you'll know that you have to value yourself more and you have to value your boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? So I would love to know below, guys, like these people that you have in your proximity, or alternatively, unmute yourself and tell me, how are they serving you? Have you had like a bit of an aha moment and gone, oh, holy shit, like they're actually not filling my cup up at all. They're really disempowering. And I'm wondering why I'm struggling. Does anyone want to share?
I'm struggling at the moment because I live with my partner and his family.
Yep.
And mum and sister don't work or aren't working at the moment.
Yep.
My sister's like 19 and she's never had a job in her life. She's got the dad's pink card, so she just gets what she wants when she wants, very spoiled, and she sits and watches Grey's Anatomy all day, every day. And the mum's been doing the same thing, and she goes on about diet and stuff like that, but she never does anything about it, and they've both got unhealthy lifestyles, and that sort of triggers me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I find it very hard to be motivated and driven when I'm in their company. And because I do full-time support work, I've got the girl that I look after, Down syndrome girl, I bring her home with me. So I'm around two unmotivated people and then a non-verbal client who can't really even talk to me. So like I'm just not motivated at all. Like I'm not stimulated. I'm just like, yeah, it's not good.
Okay, so in this situation, we can either look at it from cause or effect, right? So if you're at the effect of it, you can't do anything about it. But I believe that there is always a way to be made. So what do you think in this moment you could implement or you could change or you could shift in order for you to get out of their proximity?
I think a big one is like with my work, like I kind of want to cut back on that, and maybe the days that I do like work with Holly, I can do it outside of the house and not bring her home so much.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I don't know, just maybe do my work. I've got a space in my room that I can do my work and stuff like that. And yesterday I had the day off and I really enjoyed that. I just sort of kept away from them and like, you know, I sort of do my own thing. But yeah, I think it's about not spending so much time, because when I've got them there and then work, I'm like a bit anxious about having my client there and they're just sitting there, and it's like I've got so many things to focus on at once. And yeah.
Okay, so in that decision, because we spoke about that on the phone call that we had, you cutting back your hours with your work, what diminishes are coming up in that decision?
I don't know. I feel like every time I go to make the decision, there's either a pay rise or there's this, there's that. And I really need to just, I think having the day off yesterday really showed me that I do need to cut back, and whether I hire somebody else to support her, because the family aren't doing anything about it. So I'm their only support. So I think it's going to take me hiring someone for them so then I can cut back.
Okay, so what I want you to do now is write down some action steps that you must implement immediately to alleviate this proximity and these situations so that you can be a complete cause of it.
Yeah.
It's not what we get in life, it's how we respond to it.
Yeah, and I do know somebody that can like do a day for me if I wanted. So maybe it's about contacting her and seeing if she can do that day for me.
Perfect. Contact her today.
Yeah.
You've got until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at how quickly things can change when you action it immediately as opposed to think about it.
I know.
It goes for everyone, so that we sit in contemplation and procrastination for most of our life that we don't actually achieve anything at all. But when we just make a decision that we know is right, but it's just that we've spoken ourselves out of every reason why it's right, and when we action that decision on the spot, it's amazing what space we create for what we truly desire to come to fruition. But while we're holding on to all of these pieces that don't actually serve us, including people and relationships, while we're juggling all of this shit, the universe isn't going to give us any more. We're only given more, and we're only given what we truly desire by creating the space in order for us to receive it. Right? And this is why we have to make decisions fast. And this is why we have to have boundaries in place. And this is why we have to have people in proximity that are empowering us. And this is why we have to have the acknowledgement of what our behaviors and patterns are in order for us to start acting faster and harder. And these diminishers are a big piece of it. Like actually having the awareness of like, okay, when I make that decision, what pops up? All right, okay. I understand that my brain is there and the way it's designed. Biologically, we're designed to survive and not to succeed, right? And it's only working, it thinks it's only working in our favor to keep us safe. But safety, sometimes this day and age, as opposed to our primal, biological makeup, is vastly different. So keeping us safe this day and age is like actually putting hazards ahead of us that are in fact going to keep us in mediocrity, as opposed to be getting eaten by a lion. Right? In caveman days, our brain was designed to survive in the way of taking us away, taking us away from anything that could be potentially life-threatening. That doesn't serve us anymore. So you can understand that your brain is designed in a way that is absolutely thinking that it's working in your favor, but majority of the time it's not. That survival has to go. And you have to make decisions hard and fast. And the quicker that you make your decisions, the quicker that you will arrive at the destination. But the thinking about it and falling into all of our diminishing behaviors is definitely not going to equate to anything that's fast, if we allow that to control our life and our decision-making process.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else want to share?
Krista, what if it's like the parents or the ex, like, of your kids?
Do you have boundaries?
No. I would like to set them, but I feel that he walks all over them anyway.
Yeah, I think sometimes in some circumstances, like Veronica said, because Veronica's someone that has experienced a lot in the way of relationships, as have I, but sometimes it's easier said than done, like cutting contact, right? And I tried that for a long period of time, and I realized that I actually had to heal all the parts of myself and forgive him in so many ways in order for me to meet him with absolute love. Like absolute love. And I can honestly say, after going through a process with my ex-husband where I lost $300,000, he spent 2 years in jail. There was never a thank you. It was always an expectation. I ran our 3 businesses. I raised my daughter on my own. And I was like, you asshole. Like, how could you never even say thank you? How could you always put it back on me and think that I needed to do more? You know, and it being physically abusive, and him being physically abusive in front of my daughter. Can you imagine the amount of healing that had to take place in that? But I was so determined that I was never going to be at the effect of my problems, because everything that he did, I enabled him to do. I chose to stay. I chose to run the businesses. I chose to be a wonderful mother to my child. I chose to support him through jail sentence. I chose to give up 300 grand. I chose all of it. So I had to embark on a process to meet him with absolute forgiveness and love, so that I wasn't in a triggered response every time I saw him. But then I have big old boundaries of what I will and won't accept. And it doesn't have to be from reaction that I create those boundaries. It's from love. It's from love for me, but also from him. Because I understand if I don't have boundaries in place in all of my relationships, healthy boundaries, I'm going to get trodden on, which I did for the majority of my life. Because I give and I give and I give and I give. And then there's people out there that are just wanting to take advantage. They're wanting to take advantage of that kindness. But you need to specifically stipulate what your boundaries are. So some of the boundaries, just for reference sake, some of the boundaries that I put in place was, you know, for a long period of time, I was just constantly trying to keep the peace at the sacrifice of myself. I was constantly just bending over backwards. You know, he's never paid me child support, ever. She goes to a private school. She does extracurricular activities. I pay for all of her uniforms, everything. And I actually am fine with that now, because I know that I'm not actually entitled to anything, because I can actually, you know, feel a sense of pride knowing that I earn enough to be able to do it on my own. Mm. And there's a lot more than, I earn a lot more than him. But then I realized that I had lack of boundaries. So for a while, I would speak to him about stepping up and becoming a father before my financial situation was like, is what it is now. And back then I would say, you know, it's not about giving me money, it's being a father and supporting your child. And here's the hard conversation that we have to have. And you're probably going to get really triggered, but I'm going to insert a boundary. And then there was the conversation around her care. There was always an expectation that I was just going to pick up, right? If he couldn't do it, it was like, oh, sorry, can't do that. You'll have to figure it out. But he's just as much of a parent as what I am. So there was a boundary that was enforced. It was like, this is the care arrangement. If you can't figure it out, go and source someone else that is going to assist you with it, because I'm no longer going to be the person that picks up your pieces. Right? Boundary. Perfect. All right. On school holidays, I would struggle my ass off trying to build a business, especially at the early stages, and I would have a child full time. I had to build a business. I wasn't getting any child support. I didn't have an option. So I had to work and have my daughter home full time as well. So I said to him, your responsibility is taking half of the school holidays. That's my boundary, because I've got shit to do as well. You're not the only human being on this planet. I love you, I've forgiven you, but here's my boundary. Insert. Ask for what you want, because that's what boundaries is about. And your relationships are going to require boundaries in every single aspect of your life. And what I realized, and this is why relating is so important, is because I was lacking boundaries in a relationship with him. And then I was lacking boundaries in a relationship with my staff. And then I was lacking boundaries in the relationship with my clients. And my life was a fucking shit show. Right? Because I was just enabling everyone to have free for all. And me pick up all the pieces and end up at the stage of burnout. Because what I saw was even in my team dynamics. So we're going to delve into different aspects of your relationships. But even in the relationship with my team, I was in fact creating a level of expectation within my team. I was actually, because I know that I'm put on this earth to see people's highest potential and to build them up. And I do that with people in my team. But what I realized I was doing is building these people up to my team to have a level of expectation. I didn't have the boundaries in place. So then I was getting screwed over. And I'm going to give you a bit of an example here. So here's what I realized. And this was going back a while now. I showed, even in the way of my team, I showed her value. I showed her appreciation. I showed her the entrepreneur that she was. And I framed to everyone that joins Team KT that I see it as their entrepreneurial apprenticeship. I don't have attachment to people that are within my team, because I know that I have done my job effectively. If I can put them through an entrepreneurial apprenticeship, and even if they're with me for 5 years, they can leave and they can go and create their own thing. So I want them to learn and immerse as much in what I do as they possibly can throughout the time that we're together. So I showed her all of these things. And we were talking about her being like a 2IC within my company. But then what happened is I did not have any boundaries. Because while it felt really good while I was doing all of this top stuff, but when it came to having the hard conversation, when it came to saying no, it felt icky. I didn't want to do that stuff. So then when it came to maybe, she was then all feeling, like she was on this pedestal almost, because I'd shown her value. I told her how amazing she was. I gave her a pay rise. I showed her that she could be her own entrepreneur. I really appreciated her value. But then there was a level of complacency that happened. And I didn't have the balls to have the hard conversation with her. So then I was enabling her. And this is where boundaries are so important, because then the complacency grew and it grew and it grew. And I still wasn't willing to have that hard conversation. So then she came to me and she said, right, well, one of your clients has approached me to do X, Y, and Z. And knowing within a business structure, there can't be conflicts of interest. So this was like alarm bells. I'd created this relationship to this point with no boundaries. I created the whole lot. And I was willing to take radical responsibility for all of it because I knew it wasn't her. I allowed it. So then when she came to me with this, and in fact, put a logo on one of the pieces of content that I was paying her to design, her own logo, there was like this explosion that went off in my head. As like a, you know, this is an artist that I in fact employed to do a job. On a salary, not on a subcontract, not in a subcontractor way, on a salary. This is a person that was responsible for a lot to do with the KT brand. So then she said, all right, well, I'm going to do this over here. And I got to that moment and I went, oh my gosh, I literally have no boundaries anywhere. And you know what happens sometimes when you insert boundaries? When it's far gone, there's a shit show. Yeah. So I went back and I said, look, there's going to be a conflict of interest if you do this work for my clients, and we're going to have to put some boundaries in, and we're going to have to redo your employment contract in order for this to work. I'm willing to support you in whatever endeavor you want to do on the side, as long as it's outside of working hours, because you are working for Krista Tier Proprietary Limited for 40 hours a week. So what you do outside of that, I'm willing to support you in. But here's the boundaries, because what I'm doing is I'm setting a precedent for anyone else that actually joins the team. If I allow this boundary to slip with you and I have all of this conflict of interest that I've actually created over here as well, I'm enabling everyone else on the team to do the same. And then before I know it, my whole business is a shit show and my clients are being stolen and leveraged everywhere. My IP is being taken. And you can see how a relationship dynamic with no boundaries impacts the structure of your business. So then my IP is being taken, which I'm usually fine with because no one delivers like I do. And then my clients are being reached out to because I didn't have the ability to set the boundary in place in the initial stages. So then, you know what happened when we had this conversation? That wasn't reactive. It was actually just responsive. Shit got real. And she opted out. And that's why it's important for you to insert integrity. Absolutely is paramount, brother. But you know what I've realized is I know a lot of you here have integrity because I've attracted you. But what you'll realize in business especially is that there's not a lot of it. And the bigger you get, the less there is. And you'll find that a lot of hugely successful people in the industry, myself and Kerwin are probably the only two people that I know in the personal development industry at the high level that actually didn't get here by standing on other people. Believe it or not, honestly, and it kind of rocked me for a long period of time. Some of the biggest names that you guys know, the biggest names in personal development on a global scale, got to where they are with a whole lot of lack in integrity. And that doesn't feel good to me. I don't want to create global change while hurting people in the process. Doesn't feel good. But boundaries are absolutely important. So let's go into the couple of dynamics that are appearing in your life in the way of relationships. And we're going to talk about our love relationship first. Now, this is a big one, and I want to frame this up a little bit because I think that our love relationship is absolutely, I've always said, you know, our love relationship is 150% the biggest trigger in our entire life and is the catalyst for the most amount of growth. And since being with Kerwin, I have been through exponential growth and excruciating pain. Both of us have, because we have lent each other into every single edge that we have. And it's so easy to go out there and talk about relationships, and it's so easy to go out there and embark on growth and do the work. But then when you're in proximity and you're experiencing feelings like a love that has never been experienced in your life, there's a whole plethora of things that come up with that, right? The deeper the love, the more the fear. Yeah? And in that as well, especially when you're in a relationship with the other half that is willing to grow, it's really important for you to understand the dynamics that you actually operate from in the relating context. So let me talk to you about dynamics. And this is really important for you to assess. And this stuff is, you know, you can use it. Talk to your clients about it. Whatever it is that's coming up for you, it's important that you not only use this on yourself, but assist other people with this information as well. The map of the world, or the dynamic, or the blueprint that we operate from in relationships, who do we think that it comes from? It's usually not our own. Type it in the messenger box if you know. Yeah. Parents. So these two figures in our life are literally creating the blueprint that we operate from our entire life, especially in the way of relationships. How we see them interact, how we experience their energy, how we connect and communicate with them, and how we see them connect and communicate with others is what we consider to be safe. And you guys are going to have some serious light bulb moments come up during this, because I know Kerwin and I have been delving so deep into codependency and trauma bonding and understanding our blueprints that honestly it's taken this huge level of awareness and willingness that I've delved so deep into it. And it's super interesting because it shows up in so many aspects. So what I realized is I had a pretty healthy upbringing, you know, in the way of, you know, the example, the blueprint that I was operating from. My parents have been together since they were 17, known each other since they were 14, married at 21, you know, they're still together now, had me at 26, my brother at 29, you know, they're really good mates. They're great mates. I saw them connect and converse really well with each other and well with other people. I think that, you know, in the way of energy, I maybe picked up a little bit of my mum's anxiety when I was very small, because what we're doing is we're mapping out that dynamic, or mapping out that blueprint, particularly between the ages of 0 and 5. And even when we're in utero, we're constantly absorbing everything that our parents are, or our mum particularly, is experiencing emotionally. But between the age of 0 to 5, this is where we're actually mapping it all out, or figuring it all out. So I think the energy that I absorbed could be a little bit of anxiousness, but from a dynamic standpoint, I absolutely feel like I had quite a healthy blueprint that I was operating from. What I considered to be safe was actually safe. Parents that were together, a parent that loved me, or two parents that loved me, parents that communicated, parents that went out there and worked really hard. It actually was safe, because what we consider to be safety is what we know. Now let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. If someone was to grow up in a dynamic where their father left when they were really young, when they were 6 months old, they had a mother that earned money in really icky ways. Maybe she went out there and, you know, sued people, found every lawsuit under the sun that she could earn money in a really unhealthy way. She said to her child that she would never settle for a relationship unless he could provide for her. She was a little emotionally volatile, and the child never saw her truly connect or converse in a healthy way. This child growing up has a blueprint that they consider to be safe. Within every inch of their being, this is their safety. And when something feels safe, what do? We opt for it. Especially in relationships. All we want in relationships is to feel safe. My version of safety was being with someone that was loving, that was supportive, you know, that was a hard worker, that was willing to run with me. This person's version of safety that they were trying to find in a partner was actually really unsafe. It was someone that was wanting to, you know, maybe be in a relationship because there was financial gain. There was a lot of emotional volatility, but that felt normal. That felt safe. There was the potential for this person to be extremely transient and leave at the drop of the hat. This felt safe. And you can see why so many people are extremely emotionally disconnected in relationships, because their version of safety is not safe. So then in those moments, they have to build up walls in order for them to be emotionally resilient to the given outcomes that are going to happen in those relationships. Does that resonate? I would love for anyone to share if that resonates with you or someone that you've been with. Yeah, go Sarah. No?
I'm happy to share.
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
I guess for me, and you know, like, just to give you some background information, I'm currently separating from my partner at the moment because we were just talking about environment and we're still living together.
Mm-hmm.
House needs to be sold and whatever the logistics are. But basically our blueprint is very different, and I've been with him for 19 years, and I guess a part of me has hoped that he would change in some way, because my parents, mom more generally is an open communicator. She's very intuitive, she's sensitive, she's emotional.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's a bit probably lax in the emotional intelligence realm. So I do feel like I've definitely got bits of both of them. I don't open up to vulnerability well, but I'm a good communicator.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, has learned that avoidance and you know, quietness and withdrawing is what happens, or what should happen in communication. So for the last 19 years, I've been like, why can't you just communicate with me? And he's just like, the more I speak, the more he's like, oh my God, like, this scares the shit out of me. And I've been very aware of it. And I guess, you know, I've been trying to support him in growing through that and opening up, but he just hasn't been. So then I've had to get to the point of, our children are seeing this, and I'm not willing for my son specifically, because my daughter's very open with communicating, for my son specifically to grow up in that and accept it. So I've made the change to move out of it, but it's taken a long time to get to that point and feel okay with it. But that's obviously the different dynamics.
Totally. And you know, the thing is, I think that a lot of us, especially women, and maybe men, I can't speak for men because I don't understand, but I think that a lot of us, I know I did it for the first two relationships, like with my ex-husband, whom I love dearly, and even my ex-partner, Christian. I was focusing on their potential as opposed to reality.
Same, yeah.
Potential isn't reality, and it's not our responsibility as a partner to make them step into their potential.
Yeah.
They either want it or they don't. And, you know, now in the relationship that I'm experiencing, it's not a matter of me actually seeing his potential, because he's already standing in it.
Yeah.
Right? And then being able to run with someone like that, someone that's willing to be like really, really honest with you. In situations, even within my business, like Cohen's called me out multiple times, and he's like, you created it, you fix it. That's what I want. I don't want someone that's going to piss in my pocket.
Yeah.
You know, but I want to be someone that's as willing to grow as what I am. And is willing to delve deep, because what I found hard was I was so willing to grow. I was so willing to lean into the pain. I was so willing to look at my blueprints, look at my dynamics, looking at my codependent, you know, tendencies, looking at where I could grow and evolve and become better. But when you're in a relationship that's not reciprocated, you're going to outgrow them because it's no longer going to be a vibrational match. And it's part of the reason why things, as I said earlier, things are going to fall away. As you grow, things are going to fall away because it's no longer a vibrational match. And what makes a sustainable relationship and what maintains that match is if both parties are willing to grow.
Yeah.
But so many of us are opting for the familiarity. Oh, but he's the father to my children. Oh, but I know what to expect there. Oh, but I don't really love him. Oh, but we don't have sex. Oh, well, I'll just stay because I know. Right? But I believe that we can have it all.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you know it, you feel what you need to do, but because you're hearing from parents, you know, Ben's such a great guy, and, you know, from the outside world, our life looks amazing, our children are amazing, we co-parent very well.
Awesome.
But together, we just cannot have that communication, so then there's no connection.
Yeah.
But you stay in there because everything else seems to add up, but yet you just feel like you're dying inside.
Totally.
You know, so it does make sense that you do try and hope that things will change, but you know, it stops you from growing and propelling into the areas that you know you need to go into.
Totally. But that's why there's only such a small percentage of people that actually achieve all-rounded absolute success. Is because, yes, we can know all of this, but actually to act in accordance with it and to embody it is really hard.
Yeah.
I had this knowledge when I was with my ex-partner Christian last year, and God bless him. You know, Paul's met him. Some of you have met him. He's a beautiful person. He's a beautiful person. And he is not a match for me at all. And I knew that I was so willing to grow. He wasn't willing to do the same. He wasn't a great communicator. I was always the one trying to pull blood from a stone. But we can do this, but we can do that. Hey, babe, let's talk about this. Oh, but you can grow in this aspect. Like, I was constantly the one that was initiating all of the conversation. Instead of having someone there beside me to go, oh, hang on, let me call you out on this. All right, what do you feel about this? How can I heal more in this area? Can you hold that space? Right? Like, that's powerful. And when I came to the stage where I realized, it was sort of mid last year that I realized that we were headed in opposite directions. And I was scared because I still loved him. But I knew my highest self would make a vastly different decision. And I kept asking my highest self, okay, what would our future look like? This is where I know I'm going. Is that in alignment with it? And the answer was no every time. And I knew I had to end it not only for me, but for him. But it was scary. And to make that decision, it broke my heart. It broke my heart. But that was part of his soul's contract. Right? And while you are saying that you want to achieve one thing and you're saying that you never settle, but you're in fact settling within your actions, nothing's going to change. In relationships, so many of us are like, I'm going to call in my king, or I'm calling in my queen, and they look like this, and they're powerful, and they're in personal development, and their growth mindset, and they're this and that. And, you know, we have this big, long list of what they're going to look like. And then, you know, like, I don't know, Joe comes along and he's none of that. But we're like, oh my God, I want to experience love. Okay, you'll do. Right? That'll do. It's all good. And then we have to learn again. Don't settle. Don't settle. You say you want the thing, right? You say you want the thing, but your actions are speaking volumes in the opposite direction. And what I realized was I was saying all the things, but I was absolutely settling. 100%. And there's no way that I would have been aligned, or I would have called it in the relationship that I called in, and vice versa for him as well. There's no way that would have happened if we spent our lives settling and we weren't brave enough to go, nope, that's not me. Nope, I'm not settling. No, I'm not going down that track. No, I'm not going to sleep around just to fill this void. Right? Like, no, this is my energy. I'm going to preserve my energy, and I'm not going to allow just anyone into that fucking space. I'm going to hold my standards so high, and I'm not going to let them drop, because I know that that person is available for me. So there's a couple of things that play havoc in our love relationship. Where did my pen go?
Can I challenge that, Krista?
Of course you can.
So I'm going to be really raw and honest, and obviously I've really only had this chat with 3 people in my life. It's been going on for 6 months.
Yep.
We're known as sort of the power couple in our circle, in our network.
Yep.
Essentially, I'm the one that's sort of like the Krista that gets up, goes gets answers, doesn't sit there complacent, does the action. Yep. My partner is the complete opposite. So we went on this blueprint discovery thing about second week of February.
Yep.
And it all came back to essentially we're identical, Krista, except for the 3 kids, not 2 kids. But essentially the hard work built the empire essentially from the parents and grew all those skills.
Yep.
My partner didn't have that. nationality is Polish, and their biggest cliche is they have a rug and everything gets put under it. And underneath that rug is all the conversations that should happen, the growth that should be experienced, the mentoring and a little bit of feedback here and there from mum and dad that just doesn't exist. And it's not even their fault, it's their parents, because that's just their way. But long story short, I haven't tried to change his blueprint, and we've done a little bit of this together, and I've done a hell of a lot of stuff on my own. But I've been consistent around what do I want and where do I want to be and how do I get there. And I've just been relentless at that. My character is 360 degrees different to what it was back at the beginning of February. But the flip side is he's not resisting it. Yes, he did a bit, and like we had a few fights. We never had a fight in 7 years. We got married, and suddenly I started to discover who I was and build a different character. And he did have that pushback, but now it's like in a different zone. Like he brings different stuff to me, and in that list of 5 people around you, he probably would have been my 5th 5 months ago. Now he's my number 1.
Yeah,
he brings out these elements that I didn't know about myself. So he's taught me so much about my character and these elements of stuff that I literally procrastinate. I'm perfectionism and all these things. But at the same time, he's now willing. Like I didn't give up on him. I didn't say no. I think Veronica put in there, we're not all separate. Well, we're not. And don't get me wrong, it went through my brain, went through my head. We've just been married and had this elaborate wedding. But the flip side was that I can't change him, but I can also try and grow with him. And the outcome is that he's turned around and he's now wanting to go to mentoring and building some network marketing, and he's delving into these things that aren't part of his blueprint. He's now pretty much making his own blueprint. And it's so weird, and it's so like the 5%. But to me, it's like I haven't pushed him. He's discovered that himself. But on the flip side, exactly how you've seen it, you do have those people that just aren't right, and you do need to cut a cord, and you do need to just do what's right for you.
But here's the piece, brother. I actually think that you're more so in agreement with what I'm saying, because I'm not saying like we have to accept the blueprint that we've been given, but there's very few that are willing to change it. Correct. Right? Like I know for me, I haven't accepted mine in entirety. I haven't gone, mine's perfect and I know it all. And you know, I'm not codependent and I don't trauma bond and it's all healthy. It's everyone else in my life. Right? Like I've taken a deep look into mine and gone, right, what's actually going to serve me? Because this feels really safe, but is that in fact safe? Is that benefiting me? But it takes this willingness to actually look into it. And Kerwin's done the same. It's just that is a rarity. And I think that so many of us identify by this like power. I know that so many people since we've been together have been like, oh my gosh, you guys are a power couple. It's so much more than that, right? It's connection. 100%. You know, like a title is a great thing and it's awesome and it's really flattering and all the rest of it. But under that, it's so much more, right? There is like a soulmate connection. There is open communication.
It's just genuine and it's all authentic in every element, from how you talk, what you say, how you call each other out, just the true, genuine love. And I thought I knew love for 7 years. We got married, but mate, I knew like the L. I missed the 3 letters of OVE until recently.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, brother. Absolutely.
But you're the first person I've spoken to a lot, like I told you, like that even know how to blueprint, raise it, coordinate it, and even want to reflect on it. They just talk this textbook talk to it. And
it's just the way that I am.
It's like a brick that hits you, but you accept it or you reject it. You either do it because it serves you or you walk away because it doesn't serve you.
And you know what, usually
no one talks to it.
Even Kerwin's a prime example of this. He has never looked at it until we were together. Right? Never looked at it because it was easy when he was settling for relationships that he really didn't give a shit about.
Yeah. Right?
He hasn't actually had a monogamous relationship since he left his ex-wife 3.5 years ago. I'm the first.
Yeah.
So it's easy while we're in avoidance. It's easy while we're in, I'm not going to be with people that I care too much about because if I get hurt, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Right? But it actually takes that catalyst of like finding a deep level of love. Then you find the willingness to want to grow with that person. Yeah. Right?
And any obstacle and any hurdle is just like a piece of paper that's in the wrong spot. It's not a hurdle and it's not an obstacle.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. So what I want to talk into when it comes to our love relationships, this reflects in all our relationships as well, is codependency. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and tell me if they know something or a little bit about codependency? Nope. Okay.
I struggle with codependency a little bit.
You what, darling?
I struggle with codependency a little bit. Or in my last relationship, it was quite bad. We really depended on each other.
Yeah.
It was a very unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
Now I feel like sometimes I step back into it, but my partner's not codependent at all. So,
Yep.
and I think I'm a bit envious of the fact that he's not so dependent on me.
Yeah.
And I can be a bit more dependent on him sometimes. But I think it comes down to like sort of how I feel about myself on the inside.
It
Like,
absolutely does. It's
all my needs, but like I need to fulfill all my needs myself. Yeah.
absolutely 100%. But codependency, like attachment, is on a spectrum. Everything's on a spectrum. Control's on a spectrum. Codependency's on a spectrum. Attachment's on a spectrum. And even in the way of attachment, it can be sitting over here and it can be a healthy level of attachment, or you can be over here and it can be an extremely unhealthy level of attachment, and everything in between. Same with codependency, right? It's on a spectrum.
I think that when you learn to trust yourself, and this is just my own personal journey, you drop the codependency.
Yeah.
Because I can send the text message and I don't need you to respond because I'm so certain within myself that you love me, you care for me. You don't need something, or like it can be a short message and there's no over analysis piece. It comes back to you, you're enough, and then the worthy part. I'm worthy of this person to love me.
Yes.
Anyway, I could go on because I love this fucking topic and this is your show, not mine. So
I love you, woman. So codependency is something that I saw. I had a deeply codependent with my mum and my dad, especially my mum. I was a really nervous child, and there was deep codependency with my parents. So then I opted in for a very codependent relationship with my ex-husband, because I literally went from my parents' care to my ex-husband's care at 17. So there was so much codependency, and usually in unhealthy forms of codependency, there is a lot of control. So this is either going to, you might see yourself, even when you're feeling like you're in that codependent space, you're grasping at things and coming up with ways that you can control this person. I know for my ex-husband, I was the codependent. I relied on him so much emotionally. I relied on him, not financially. That's been the one thing that I've always been independent, but I relied on him for decision-making. I relied on him for safety. Right? All of the things that we find within us, I was relying and outsourcing all onto him. So then he had control in so many of these places. There was emotional manipulation. There was deep levels of control in every aspect of my life. Right? And codependency is something that some of us can create in the way that we relate to everyone. And what I've seen in the coaching industry is a lot of coaches without this knowledge actually create codependent relationships with their clients, right? They in fact run a guru model that they make their clients so reliant on them that it's in fact codependent. And this is not the way to succeed in business. This is a really disempowering way of building business. The way that I look at relationships, if you've got two completely separate beings, you don't meld and morph into one, and you're running a journey that is completely parallel. This person is not responsible for your reactions, your emotions. They are not responsible for you feeling good about yourself. They are not responsible for validating how you feel. This is all yours. That's all yours. There is no crossover. And this is how codependence happens. Is there's one party that's super insecure, and then they create a codependency because the partner is constantly going, oh my gosh, but you are beautiful. Oh my gosh, but I do love you. Oh my gosh, everything's going to be okay. Oh my gosh, take away the emotions. And it's creating this codependency so that this is like their source for everything. And this is what coaches do with clients. They create this great need, as opposed to empowering them to the space that they actually have the knowledge and the wisdom to do it themselves. And I've seen it time and time again. It's part of the reason why I frame and say, I do not run a guru model. I am not your guru. I am here to duplicate myself in your own unique way. I'm not here for codependency. I don't want you to need me. I know that I'm the solution to a lot of people's problems. That's from a place of want and not need. And in this space of codependency, it's the reason that we stay in familiarity. I saw that I created codependency with a team member. And it wasn't from my dependency, but it's because she had the traits of a severe codependent, and she came into this dynamic, because this dynamic is the same as any relating dynamic. She came into this dynamic and became extremely codependent, and I was her life force. So we have to become aware, and I would love for you guys even just to take a moment to see if there's any relationships that you are taking part in, whether it's your love relationship or whether it's friendships or whether it's with colleagues or whether it's with clients, that there is a lingering of codependency. And as I said, it's on a spectrum. It doesn't have to be that it's like ultimate codependence where you literally need that person to live. But is there any remnants of codependency in any aspect of your life? I'm just going to give you 5 minutes to do that. Look into all relationships. So friendships, love, colleagues, team members, children. It's another place that we create codependency deep within our children, as opposed to empowering them to become highly independent. I'll give you 5 minutes. Okay, does anyone want to share where it's showing up in their life, if it's them or if they've attracted a bit of a codependent relationship?
I'll talk. So codependency, my parents have tried to create codependency in some ways for control.
Yeah.
And they did that through money.
Yeah.
And I have some step siblings that are totally reliant on my parents, like they've never worked, totally useless. Whereas I've always worked, I've always earned my own money, I've never actually needed it.
Yeah.
And so my partner and I always resist them. They always insist on paying for dinner, insist on giving us, money, don't let us really have any power. So they always get, and I can see it in every relationship they've ever had. Yep. They're friends with all these people that they basically pay to be their friends in a sense, because they choose where they go to eat, they pay for their lunches, and that's the kind of environment I grew up in, which I'm very resistant to. But I also can reflect that in some ways that attempt to control to a degree, I was just reflecting that I think I've done that a bit with my husband, in a sense. Like I manage all of our admin and I have the money and I kind of control all of that stuff, and he's never really cared, and in a sense, and I would originally I was thinking I was referring to him as being codependent, and then I realized, well, in actual fact, I've created that codependency in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's chicken and egg scenario. Who knows where it kind of starts? I guess it just forms, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a pretty hard reflection that I might have actually created that myself.
I think you have, based on the blueprint, right?
Mm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And in that process, then it feeds into, disempowerment of the masculine as well.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got all those symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's really interesting. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of context into, having the awareness of your codependent relationships is one thing. Actually doing something about it is another. In order to sever a codependent relationship, you've got to put some big old boundaries in place. And what happens when we put in big old boundaries? Shit blows up, right? Like, we've got to actually retrain the codependent. We don't just remove them from our lives. We don't just sever it off and avoid the situation, because we've probably created it. If we've attracted a codependent, we've created the codependency, or we've allowed it, right? And what I saw, even in the codependent relationship that I attracted in the way of work, this person worked for me. This person had I could see it. Her whole past was like severe codependent relationships. And she came to me and she was single. So next best thing, oh my gosh, go back into my blueprint. I need to feel safe. All right, this is the person that I'm going to become codependent with. Awesome. And I didn't have this level of an awareness back then. Like, I didn't know. And I was always that kind person that was willing to give and, be that form of safety, I suppose. And I had no idea the creation that I was concocting. So then when I realized this dynamic was playing out, that this person was extremely codependent in so many ways, I had to put some boundaries in place. And when we put those boundaries in place, Kerwin and I use the analogy of training an untamed animal, right? And this is not in a disrespectful way, but if you guys haven't watched Cesar Millan, he is an amazing, he's like a dog whisperer. I would highly suggest that you go and watch him, because I believe that the correlation between parenting, between training animals, it is really based on a very sort of similar approach, right? And boundaries is a part of this. But what happens is when we go and we attempt to train an untamed dog per se, what usually happens? It usually actually gets worse, right? So it spends a lot of time and it's like growling and barking, and it'll come inside and piss on the mat, and then it might bite you. And it has like this outrage of like, don't try to control me. Do not tell me what to do. I'm going to make your life hell, trying to regain that control and that codependency, right? All they're craving is to be in that codependent relationship again. But you're going, no, boundary. And you're doing it with love, right? No boundary, no boundary, no boundary. And what happens to that untamed animal is after a while, it gets so exhausted and actually can specifically, it's no different to a child, specifically understands the new boundaries, and then all of a sudden complies. But what happens for a lot of us is that we give up when it gets too hard, even in the way of parenting. I created a bit of codependency with my daughter, and it's been something that I have been moving through for like the last 6 months. And what I realized was I was actually leading a lot of what I did as a mother with guilt and shame. And I share this for transparency, because we don't all have it figured out, right? Like, none of us have it all figured out. But what I saw was like, I'd created this codependent relationship with my daughter, and it's normal for our children to obviously depend on us for a lot of it. But I had so many lack of boundaries because I'd led a lot of my motherhood journey with a whole lot of guilt and shame. Because of what my daughter went through with my ex-husband, what she was exposed to, I sort of thought that I had to be a masculine and a feminine. I had to be the mother and the father, and I had to be all of it all at once. So operating from this place, being a single mom, I had this ideal that I was, going to have the white picket fence. I was going to be married and have the baby and have multiple babies. And there was going to be this perfect upbringing like I had. And mind you, mine wasn't perfect either. But because it didn't fit into that mold or that ideal that I had imagined for my life, I beat myself up for a long period of time. And I thought that I had to overcompensate in ways. And the way that I was overcompensating a lot of the time was being a detriment to not only her, but to me. So I've had to rewire a child. You know, she was probably around 7 years old when I actually, and she's nearly 9. She was probably around 7 years old when I first understood this, that I'd created this. Because I could see the attitude of a teenager coming out in a 7-year-old. And I went, oh shit, I've done something wrong. And the way that I learn is obviously experiencing, you know, the outcome of something that isn't desired. You know, someone could have told me what to do and I would have, oh no, it's okay. I have to learn the hard way. So in this, I had to retrain her like I would an untamed animal, right? And I know that sounds disrespectful to a lot of you, but it's like literally the reality of it. So I had to create boundaries. And you know what happened? There was shit everywhere. It was like, but I don't want to do that. What do you mean? Why are you being strict? I hate you. No, you're a bad mom. It was like World War III. But I'd enforce the boundary again. And I'd enforce the boundary again. And again, and again, and again, and again, until she complied. New boundary. Perfect. Next one. Right? And it's having that open communication. It's not going out there and yelling and screaming and ranting and raving. It's going, you know what? I love you so much. Here's the line. And I would sit down with her on multiple occasions and I would say to her, you know what, baby girl? I'm only doing this because I love you. Because I actually know that you're going to grow up to be an amazing adult. And no matter how hard you try, no matter how angry you get at me, no matter how much you say that I'm a really bad mum, I still love you unconditionally. And I'm actually doing this for you because it would be easier for me to give in. But I just want you to grow up and be a beautiful human being that I know that you are. And it's mummy's job to show you how to do that, to put boundaries in place so that you understand. And this is even the conversation that you get to have with other codependents in your life. Is like, hey, I see you. This is the dynamic that we've currently been playing at. And now it's time to shift up this blueprint. And you know what? It's going to feel a bit icky. It's going to feel a bit yuck. But what happens sometimes with someone that's not so growth mindset, which this other person that was in my life that I'd attracted into my team, this person wasn't overly growth mindset. They were very much at the effect of everything in their life. They were very much willing to blame everything external from them and expect that something was going to change. Because that was easier, right? And they also had remnants of trauma bonding, which we're going to talk about as well. So they were going out there and they were just trying to blow shit up. And to regain that codependent relationship, they would like throw a bomb. Right? It was like, well, here you go. I'm going to cause shit over here. And then here you go. I want you to come back to me. So I'm going to create a little mess over there as well. And then, whoop, I'll throw another one over there in order to regain that familiarity. Right? And what happened was me meeting the situation with love. And I think this is the biggest thing, because a lot of us, when we're severing codependent relationships or we're putting in boundaries in any aspect of our life, as soon as it gets too hard, we let the boundary go. Right? We keep the peace. We people please. And I feel blessed in the way that I have someone in my corner that's of huge support that goes, nope, you know where it's headed, just keep the boundary there. Keep the boundary there. This is for her highest good. Right? And you can meet that person with a love and an understanding, knowing that it's setting them up to be a better human being. But while you're collapsing the boundaries constantly, you're creating a huge level of confusion. Whether it's an adult or whether it's a child, the reason that a lot of human beings feel anxious is because we actually are outside of boundaries. We actually have no roadmap that we're operating from. And it's the reason that my daughter from such a young age was highly anxious, because I didn't have any boundaries in place. So she was trying to figure it all out on her own. And I thought I was doing a great job, but I wasn't. And it's no different in relationships. You don't have boundaries in relationships, you feel unsafe. You don't have boundaries with your children, they feel unsafe. And you just feel like a scatterbrain. So glad, Em. I saw your little face. Light bulb moment. Yeah. So another way that we connect is through trauma bonding. Does anyone know what trauma bonding is? Unmute yourself if you do.
Shared pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Shared painful life experiences.
Yep.
You can relate so much. And I mean, it can be with friends and it can be with lovers.
Totally.
You find that common ground that can be quite strong.
Yeah. So a brief outline of trauma bonding is absolutely, finding that point of similarity, because a lot of us connect based on comfort, right? How many of you can relate to someone that is in your life and the only thing that you connect on is drama? Or someone that maybe attempts to do it with you, but you're just not buying into the bullshit. Can anyone relate? Totally. This is a prime example of a trauma bonder from way back. It's hilarious. With this knowledge, I'm like, holy shit, I didn't realize how many of them were out there. No wonder I'm an introvert. A trauma bonder is someone that connects on problems, on trauma. And it's usually their only point of connection. And you will realize that if you don't have drama in your life, or they don't have drama in your life, there is no connection point. I think I might have been a trauma bonder at some stage. Like very early on in my journey, I think I might have used to even trauma bond with my mum. I felt so connected to my mum when I had a problem and when I wanted to have a bitch about someone. And then what I realized was when I stopped being judgmental and when I stopped talking about people and when I had this really positive approach, over the last 10 years, I was like, what do we connect on now? And I mean, my mum is honestly my best friend. I love her so dearly. And, both of us have grown at the same pace. So we don't even bond like that anymore, and nor do we try to. So we've regained this connection point that is vastly different than what it was. But there are so many people out there in their relationships, even in their love relationship, in the relationship with their children, in the relationship with their friends, in the relationship with their colleagues, in the relationship with their clients, that is simply based on trauma. And I also see this, and this is how it correlates, it happens in a coaching client dynamic. And for true trauma bonders, it is like their absolute dream to find a coach that they can vomit their shit all over. And they get a people pleaser response. And this is why, as a coach or a mentor, you cannot be a people pleaser. I have had so many clients hate me for a long period of time. I do pre-frame that. You're not always going to like me. You're going to hate me sometimes, but you'll love me by the end of it because I'll get a result. But because they've had a trauma way of connecting, they've come to me and it's a no-go zone. And they don't feel connected. So it's my job to teach them a new way of connection. Because once again, if you've grown up with that blueprint, that's going to feel safe. Right? If you've grown up in a dynamic of parents where all you do is bond over your shit, bond over everything that went wrong in the day, bond over all of your trauma, that familiarity is what's going to push you out in the outside world without the awareness to change it, to put you out there and have you connecting in the same way. And something that Kerwin and I have done since the early ages of the early days of our relationship is we've always been super aware, because trauma bonding is another thing that's on a spectrum. We all do it to some extent. We all have our days where we want to have a whinge to someone, and that's okay too. And your partner is usually the person that you do that with because they're in closest proximity. But we've always had this awareness that we never create a trauma bond connection. And it's in the moments that, you know, if he's having a situation with his ex-wife or I'm having one with my ex-husband, that we catch ourselves. Oh, babe, this happened today. I just need someone to talk to about it. I don't want to bond with you over it. I just need to vent it, and then can we let it go? Like having the awareness of not creating, because that's what happens. A lot of us just don't have awareness of these things. So then we create this amazing masterpiece, or what we think is a masterpiece, and then we're trying to undo all of it. But it's having the awareness in the moments. Does anyone have questions about that? Luke, or I saw a
question, Kira.
Go, Luke.
For me, it's more like, obviously I've got 10,000 employees. All of them are sort of, I don't know, entry level, sort of just team members. They haven't really lived life, not good backgrounds and blueprints and advice and stuff. And it's just like, it's a fine line of being the boss and being the friend. You've just got to be aware and say the direct line to make sure that the line's not blurred. They're not smart enough. They're not educated enough. They're not switched on enough to see it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you say it, they pick up on it 99% of the time.
Yeah.
But as I said, like you can't do the opposite and go the whole, like, I can't have this chat because we can't bond over it. Like, it's like you said, I just say, like, today was shit, we need a vent, and I just go bang and just hit it with my partner. Like, it's how you open it, it's how you phrase it.
Yeah, well, it's the frame that you create. Yeah, it's the context.
Okay. But I find it's not just your relationship, like it's your work, it's your performance conversations, it's quite often your customers too. Like sometimes you'll link on that point of similarity or point of connection in your rapport that I wouldn't say it's a trigger or a trauma point, but if they're going to vent about something that had in the past that was shit, the worst thing you do is sit there and dish it or put them in the gutter. It's like, I don't know, I haven't had it, but more than happy to talk about what I do have and what it can offer you.
Yeah.
But I think it's being real, being aware and having the chat, and sometimes you got to be the bigger person and have that comment or that phrase at the start of you then doing your spiel or your point of conversation.
And I think too, being okay with not being liked, right? When that's someone's reference point for connection, like I know I piss a lot of people off and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, well, change of subject, not in a mean way, but just because I choose not to connect like that. But, you know, that can be taken as rude, especially if that's their only familiar way of connecting.
That was probably the second best day of my life compared to getting married, was like, I just don't give a fuck about what goes on or what people think. Yeah. I'm going to post it, I'm going to say it, I'm going to write it, I'm going to put it in the story. And no joke, people actually accept you when you're not looking for acceptance.
Yep. Yeah, but you can't look outside of yourself. It's an internal job, right? You've got to accept you, and then other people are going to just be a byproduct.
100%.
Yeah. Luca, what were you going to say, babe?
Adele mentioned something before, and she said, what about when her and I met? I was coming out the back end of the bad relationship I was in, and her and I kind of connected over that initially, and then Adele told me about her past. So I think initially we connected over it because it was really relevant with when we had met. But I think I remember you saying everything is on a spectrum. So although we connected initially, and that's probably one of the first things we spoke about, it's not what we continue to connect on. And I've seen a lot of people write in there, what's the difference between, because I still talk to her about things that are going on and she doesn't validate my feelings. She just kind of listens or maybe gives me perspective.
Yeah.
And I think, am I right to say everything's on the spectrum, really? Like how you said? Yeah.
Absolutely.
A healthy level of sharing and relating, but not making it the only one point of
connection.
Yeah.
Like a severe case of trauma bonding would be, oh my God, there was one circumstance in my life where I would go, I've known this girl for years. Maybe when I was 18, I've known her. The only time I would hear from her is when she had a problem, and she would call me and I was stupid enough to answer the phone, and she would literally vomit all of her problems and expect that I was going to give her a bitchy response and connect with her on her trauma. Yeah. So it was and because I used to, maybe back when I first knew her when I was 18, I was willing to be oh yeah, that sucks. Yeah, she's totally a bitch. I was willing to play into it back then. And as I grew, I was just oh yeah, but you could see it in this light. Oh yeah, but you could see it in this light. And I wasn't willing to. I think that's exactly what you guys are like.
I was like, I do that. I do that.
I was like, I've got girlfriends that ring me up and they're like, oh, don't you think like my husband, he's being such a dickhead and da-da-da. And I'm like, well, can you see it from this light and this perspective? And I don't get there and go, yeah, what a dickhead. Like, I don't fit into that. But yeah, I can relate. When I was much younger, I used to be like, yeah, like agreeing with them.
Totally. And a trauma bond is usually in their element when there's drama.
Yeah.
Like when there's drama, they're at their best.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't have that anymore, like friendships. Like I just have friends, if they've got something, they come to me, but I don't agree with them. I'm just trying to help them in that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthy relationships that I've got.
Well, it's almost like they're excited by it. I know my ex-husband's partner is a trauma bonder from way back, like way back. So every time that, you know, I might have words with my ex-husband, she is like in her element. Like I can feel her. I can feel her energy. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to like organize the solicitors and then they'll have to only speak through the solicitors and then I'm going to intervene in this way. And it's hilarious because I understand the dynamic and I understand her blueprint. So I can actually look at it from a humorous perspective rather than getting caught up with a, you're an idiot. I'm actually looking at it from the, oh my gosh, I actually feel sorry for you and I'll offer you love and you're going to maybe understand it in your own time. I mean, she's maybe 45, so I don't know whether she's willing enough to delve into that realm. But, you know, I can see it from a very different standpoint rather than getting triggered. You know, so all of this awareness is not only for you, but to understand how other people operate as well. You know,
hey, Krista.
Yes.
I've got an example or just a bit of a story that might help. I've seen this heaps in my friendship groups in the last year or two. Yeah. Like divorces have happened and, you know, lots of different things. Most of my friendship group is business owners or quite successful women who are very, I suppose you'd call them very driven, very powerful, very boss babe, very get shit done. And so we all try to keep each other to a high standard, but it's been interesting to watch when trauma happens in a group, how people respond. So say like, if someone's having financial struggles with their business, you'll see the people that will kind of flock and go, oh, me too. Like love the fact that someone else is failing. Love the fact that they're also a single parent or love. And I've had this, like I've had lots of different traumas, you know, when I remember when I talked about having a miscarriage years ago and it was like people flocked to me because, oh, she's had trauma. I'm like her now. And one thing that I've really learned is to look for the places we are similar without the trauma. And also when I'm dealing with my friendship groups, one thing that I often do now, and I even had this today, is there was a cycle happening. There was a bitch session happening again. And I said, are you just wanting me to listen right now? Because that's about all I can do for you. Because you know what I'm going to say, which is I'm going to call you out, right? And she's like, no, just listen. And I'm like, okay, we'll get it over and done with in 1 minute because I'm busy. And so we've been able to create a good relationship. And obviously you can't always do that. But I think it's so often about not going down the rabbit hole with people and really like trying to find where you can relate on a new level. And if you push that, like then you can actually help lift those people out of that trauma state just by saying, well, yeah, we can relate on that level, but here's these, like I had a sister that died and so does one of my friends, but we don't talk about that. We relate on parenting levels and we relate on other levels, right? So that's something that I've learned that's been really beneficial is like when I see that loop or that cycle continuing in a friendship or a family member, I just ask myself, like, where can I actually find a new relatable point that I can focus them around and kind of take charge in that positive way?
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Help.
And so powerful too for their highest version, right? Because like in that moment when you're just doing that for not only your own benefit but for theirs, you're in fact, you know, showing them and giving them awareness of the blueprint that they've been operating from, and what a gift that is, right? A prime example that I have, and it's probably the most severe codependence and trauma bonding that I've ever experienced in my entire life. As one of you said earlier, I can't remember who it was. Oh, Em. You were saying that there was, you know, a very much a codependence. I think Em's actually jumped off. But there was codependence that was created through money with her parents. And my parents used to have this group of friends, and they were multi-millionaires, and they would trauma bond. I'd never quite seen anything like it. As soon as I would, even when I was around them, not that I was very regularly, but as soon as I would put my positive perspective on something, no one would even respond, because the only way that they knew how to connect with one another was through talking about all of their problems. But not only that, they had created so much codependence within this little clique because of the amount of money that they had. So there was so much control and there was so much codependence that they would in fact even book holidays, but they would pay for everyone to go on the holiday. They would pay for all of the accommodation, all of the expenses. So what they did for the people that actually became codependent within that clique, they would be like waiting out and allowing these two people to have absolute control and manipulation over everything. So then there was like this severe dynamic that played out as if you don't comply to the rules of this group, you're going to be culled. Like there was almost this it was the most severe, circumstance that I can think of. And this is obviously on the spectrum. This is like as bad as you can get. And it was absolutely phenomenal to understand, because I didn't get it. I was like, I'm just not really a controlling person. I don't know. I'm not really I'm very independent, and I don't really like to talk about problems. Yes, I'm willing to acknowledge them, but I don't need to reiterate them. And I never truly understood that. So when I had the understanding of codependency and control and trauma bonding and how it all sort of ties together, I was like, oh, this is all that they know. This is how they feel safe. This is how they connect. And outside of this, like they're so in deep that they're not connected to the rest of the world unless they have problems. So then what these people do is they actually hold on to the problems because there's so much secondary gain, and they don't want to release anything, right? Because they've created this whole masterpiece of a life based on the shit. Make sense? Any questions before we delve into the next piece? Just before we have Melissa jump on board, do you want to ask some questions? Nope. Okay, perfect. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to go and have a toilet break, get a drink of water, move your body, and then we're going to dive straight back into it. bag. All right, guys. So is there any aha moments? Is there anything that's come into your awareness? Maybe there's a point of connection with some people in your life that's a little unhealthy. I would love for you to share. The more that you share, the more you're going to get out of it.
I'll share because I really don't want to.
Okay.
What's come through for me in the last segment and with the money letter as well is when I wrote the letter to money, it was like I was writing a letter to a lover. And so you highlighting love as like the key, I've been rewriting my blueprint since leaving my ex-husband 7 years ago, and that was my conscious choice. But there's avoidance with money and avoidance with love because I'm so comfortable being super single mama.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would I look at, and there's like nervousness in my voice, which hasn't happened for a long time.
I love that.
What would I look at? Like what dynamics? Because it's not even something I allow in. Like,
why?
I guess I've allowed my excuses to be bigger than my.
What's under the excuses?
I'm safe.
Mm-hmm. What's under the safety?
Control. Because, yeah, I'm not actually risking anything, which is the same as where I'm at with my business. I'm not risking right now. Okay.
Yeah. So the underlying to that is fear.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
Pretty cool, hey? Like when you see how it all correlates and all intertwines.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm listening to you talk about codependency and trauma bonding and boundaries, and I can, in most areas of my life, I'm pretty harsh and clear, but it also keeps me like in this little Tara bubble with her kids, and that's it.
So what does it look like being in a space, being held by the masculine?
Oh yeah, that would just be like my biggest fear. Yeah.
In complete brokenness and vulnerability, mess, in complete mess, in breakdown, in not having it all together.
Yeah, I don't even know what that would feel like. And I think too, I don't think I know. I've been dancing around this for probably about 12 months. Like I know my next level growth is opening to those things and at least opening my eyes and vortex to that being a possibility for me.
Yeah.
And yet my fear of not being met, I just go, it's just good. This is good.
You need to lean into that.
And soften. Surrender. Yeah.
It was the most powerful shift that I ever had.
Hence probably why that you wrote a post the other day and I just cried reading it. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
The one after our break, was that the one? Yes. About being held?
Yes. Yeah. I felt that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll sit with this. Thank you.
Because like business owners, and here's the beautiful thing that we get to assess as well, because majority of you are women here, we operate in a very different way. You know, it's sometimes, and what I found was like, I had the masculine, I had the powerful, I had the strength, like fucking nailed to a T. What I didn't have was the softness. I didn't have the vulnerability. I didn't have the losing control. I hadn't lent into any of it. Right. And it wasn't until I was met with a relationship that I chose to, but it forced me to open my heart at such rapid speed that I didn't realize how many walls I had built up around it. How many walls that I perceived as safety. How much I actually just relied on myself and how much I'd been avoiding a true connection because I thought that was unsafe. In that true opening of the heart, there was so much vulnerability there, right? To experience a love that I had never experienced at all that I am, and to potentially not be held in that or not be accepted in it. Now that was scary. So I settled for relationships that weren't a true opening of the heart, because I thought, oh, well, if it messes up, I wasn't that attached anyway. Right? But when you're in a relationship or a dynamic, no matter what it is, but especially in love, like that's the context I'm talking in, that the person sees you and they see all of you and they can read you and they can call you forward and they can see all of the shadows and the apprehension, the things that scare you, and you don't have an option but to lean into it. That's the scariest thing that you will ever experience. But on the other side of it, the most magical. And the analogy that I use for anything in my life is it's no different to childbirth. Right? And I use it all the time because I believe that a lot of us reach that point of like excruciating pain in life and we give up before the change happens. And, you know, when we go into labor, it's a little bit painful and the contractions get heavier and heavier and it just gets to the stage where it's breathtaking, where you don't know how you can go another moment, where it's completely overwhelming your body in every way, shape or form. And then in that moment where, and I know for me, it was in that moment where I was like, I can't do it. I can't, like, I couldn't produce words, but I was like, I'm literally going to die. That I transitioned and a miracle happened. And before I knew it, my baby was laying on my chest. And it's no different in life. These things that we are avoiding, the pain that we're not facing off with, is not enabling us to grow and experience the magic and the wholeness of life. And I knew for me, I've known for a long time that, you know, I had the powerful, the strong, the, you know, badass, you know, biz woman, the mumpreneur. I had all of these things nailed, but there was still something missing. And I knew that it wasn't outside of myself, but it took a relationship in order for me to actually want to open my heart to its fullest expression. And then when you're immersed in that relationship, it's really scary because as attachment grows, there's a bigger fear of loss. And what a lot of us do in that moment is we sabotage it because we go, this is too good to be true. I'm just going to fuck it all up so I don't get hurt. Because as my attachment grows, I've got more to lose. But it's in the moments of surrender and the moments of, okay, yeah, I can see what's happening here. I'm not going to sabotage it. I'm actually going to go inward and I'm going to assess why this is the way that it is. And it's in the surrender to that process that everything transforms. And I know for me, the level of, and just to give you context of what happened, even with Kerwin and I, there was so much resistance within my body that I was like literally like clenching onto my control. And there was this feeling of so much unsafety that it was almost taking my breath away. And with this level of resistance, I actually wasn't allowing the process to flow through me. And then with the beautiful reminder that I was safe and I got to surrender, I fell to fucking pieces. I'm talking mess. I'm talking tears. I'm talking snot. I'm talking really uncomfortable panting, all sorts of stuff, screaming. And I wasn't going to know. I've never been that broken in front of anyone, not because I had a big problem that I was facing, but because I was willing to lean into things that I hadn't acknowledged. But when I was held in that, it allowed me a space that I'd never experienced. To truly be held by the masculine, to truly feel like I didn't have to have it all together, to truly be in my softness, in my vulnerability, to be seen in all that I am, not just the good parts. It enabled me an experience that I never thought was possible. But unless I leant into it and had the courage to face off with it, I wouldn't have actually been able to create that. Right? Because we're avoiding it. It's like, well, I don't know whether it's safe or whether it's not. And we're not going to know. We're never going to know. But what is our responsibility is to create something new. And we're not going to create something new while we just think about it and fantasize. We create something new by just trying it. And in that came a huge new depth of love, a huge new depth of acceptance, a huge new depth of attachment, of knowingness that we'd be in each other's lives forever. Because to see all parts of someone is so beautiful. And you get to surrender to that. Because there's a worthiness, right? And this is how it all intertwines. If we don't think we're worthy of a relationship, we've probably got a very similar relationship with money, right? If we don't think that we can be all of ourselves in a relationship, we're not going to be all of ourselves in our business. Make sense? Yeah. Who else is going to share?
I want to actually share about when I first met you. When I first met Krista, it was like in March last year. And anyway, she was in her masculine, but I really respected her because she had certainty. And I'm very in my feminine and very like, I needed to harden up and she needed to soften down. And it was amazing because I've watched her from a distance, in and out, and then she ended up being my coach, which is the perfect coach for me because she's done the journey, and I've just watched you unfold and lose yourself. And those tears that you were feeling, you were fucking in when you were crying those tears. I know, and a little bit you were though, but that's okay. You didn't need to tell me that. That's just what I thought.
Love you.
You've just unfolded, and you're so gentle and so soft, but yet so certain and so direct, and that's why we are so blessed to have you here, because I think as a woman it's good to be in the masculine at times, because for someone that lives in the feminine too much, it's good to have that polarity, and you've got total certainty, and that's beautiful, and that's why you can surrender, and that's why you've attracted the man that you've attracted, that's wounded but strong.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, beautiful. I love you so much.
Yeah, and it's just a gentler energy. And you've lost like shitloads of weight. You probably lost 6 kilos, and I put on 6 kilos. Now I have to lose 6 kilos. Everyone knows that now.
It's so weird because I was training like 7 days a week back then. I think it was muscle. I haven't actually tried to lose weight at all, like not for 1 second. I just think that I've lost a lot of muscle because I haven't trained.
Right, and then I started doing all this CrossFit, and I feel like a bulky guy, and I'm like, I don't have an injury. I'm never going, like, is what it is. Good, but yeah, she's actually living proof of everything she's saying, and if you do the work, you get the guy.
Yeah. You get so much more than the guy, but yes, that's part of it. And I think it comes back to like really not settling. There's no way that I would have attracted anything that I've attracted in any aspect of my life if I settled, right? The business, the relationship, the house, the friendships, the clients. Settling is in every aspect of your life. And, for a while, like we're going to talk about creating content and all of the business pieces tomorrow. But what I realized was I was attracting even all of these clients that were not the type of people that I wanted to work with. They were sitting deep in victim mentality. They had every BS excuse under the sun as to why they weren't. They were just constantly at the effect of everything. And I was like, right, okay, well, how do I stop attracting them? And I was like, stop settling for them. Say no to them. Right? And I think at the initial stages of business, we just settle for anything that's there. And the moment that I stopped settling was the moment that I started attracting high level people, because I was acting in accordance with it. And it's no different to any aspect of your life, right? So guys, before Melissa jumps on board, she's 4 minutes away, I just want to give an overview of today. And what I really want to do is just start closing out the container. Melissa's going to go for an hour, and then I'm going to talk to you guys for the last half an hour. And I'm going to set you some tasks to what we get to do tonight. I love that your website says that you have to apply for any course or offer. Absolutely, brother. I only do application. You're different. And thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And I used to be that way, but I realized that I am the solution, right? This is the switch from scarcity to abundance. I realized that I'm the solution. And if I was scarce, I would be taking anyone on board. I'm abundant. I don't need anyone. If I want to take someone on board, I will, right? And in that, when we're in that abundance mindset, we're not settling, number one. Number two, we're actually producing what we want to produce in the way of programs, in the way of events. In that abundance, we're creating boundaries because we're not focusing on the loss, we're focusing on the gain. So we're creating boundaries in our relationships. And in that abundance, we're not overcompensating, right? From our not enoughness. We're not feeling like we've constantly got to give because what we're giving isn't enough. So it's impacting so many aspects of your life. So guys, today, what I really want you to do is go away and reassess everything that we have covered. You having the knowledge isn't the solution. You implementing is what's going to create the change. You're going to have a task that I'm going to delve into. And thank you for the compliment, brother, as well. I feel like I didn't acknowledge that, so thank you. But you implementing is what's going to create the change. So what I'm going to do is set your task after Melissa's finished, and it's going to be a task of release and more awareness that you're going to take part in tonight so that we can actually start tomorrow from really firm foundations. It seems like a really simplistic task, but it's probably the most powerful thing that I've ever done in my life. When it comes to releasing, negative emotions, because I can sit here and say, you guys have limiting beliefs and I'm going to turn these beliefs into empowering beliefs. But you know what? It's not going to do jack shit if you go out there and do something, if you don't do something different, right? Because yeah, you probably do have a lot of limiting beliefs. Absolutely. You do. And you're probably talking to yourself in a really disempowered way, but you already know that now. Right? Because your self-talk is absolutely going to be the one thing that dictates exactly what you achieve in this lifetime. And if you believe that you are not worthy, you will never be worthy and you will never attract it. But if you know the power that resides within each and every one of you, no matter where you've come from, no matter what dynamic you've been a part of, no matter what journey you have traveled, if you know that that power is within you, you will always act in accordance with your highest version. And you will make empowered choices. So I'm going to let Melissa come on board, introduce herself, give her amazing magic and medicine to you guys. And I'm going to see you back here at 4:30 to close the container and talk about our exercise. Over to you, beautiful.
Hello, guys. I've just tapped in at the end there and I got to hear a little bit of what you guys have been experiencing today. But I'm sure you're probably reeling with information and your minds are like going bonkers of all these things that you've just intaken and revealed. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to bringing it all back in. Let's bring it back into the body. Let's calm everything down and let's just sort of really start to get a bit of clarity around everything that you've just experienced. Because I know when we're sitting in our heads and then we're seeing all these things and this separation to ourselves of what we haven't done, what we could do and where we need to go, it gets really busy in your mind. And what I want to do with the breath work today is to be able to drop you out of your mind back into your body. So you can actually start to feel what's going on, where the separation is, and get a little clarity on how you're actually feeling moving forward as you step into the unknown. And I think that's the scary part of business is the unknown. Our mind doesn't like unknown because it can't protect us and it can't control anything from there. So what I love about the breath is it helps us disconnect from the mind. We can really come into the body and start to feel what is actually separating us from our truth. And it's really hard to be an authentic leader and step into our authenticity if we're actually turning our back on parts of ourselves. And you probably have revealed a few parts of yourself that aren't aligning with you and the parts that think you might not be good enough and all of those things. So that's what I want to delve into with the breath today. And I want to give you some clarity where the limits of your mind aren't trying to logicalize what is actually the feeling that you are having, because we can't heal and change things from our mind, because a lot of what we're experiencing that are our personal lies and limits in business, in life, in relationships aren't logical, because a lot of what we've created as limits are actually created in our unconscious and subconscious. A lot of that happened between when we were 0 and 7. And it's still playing out now in this empowered adult that you are. This like younger version, smaller version of yourself is attached to all these things where her worth and being loved and seen were less than. So you created different ways to deal and cope with those things. But now when you're trying to move into this empowered place, you want to change your life, you want to step into business, and you want to be really present and show up, every time you lean in, something goes, this is really kind of freaking scary. This is really uncomfortable. And what happens is, when you haven't been shown as a child to feel comfortable in the uncomfortable and to lean into it, and that it's just scary, and every time we've been angry or sad or had a negative emotion, we've been told that's bad. So we've kind of disconnected to the bad parts of ourselves or the traumatic experiences that we've had, and we've turned our back on them. But what's actually happening now when you want to make change, these are the parts that need to be felt into, to breathe into, to embody, so then you can actually move to the next part in your life. So I kind of raced in there and I didn't even introduce myself, but it was like all coming through. So I had to grab it while I was coming through. But that's what I want to really bring to you today. And so with the breath work and really embodying what you want to bring to your business is really important, because if you want to show up authentic and you want people to hear you, you can't just do that from the mind. You can't just do that from knowledge. You have to really be able to show up authentically and vulnerably and be real. Because like you see how Krista shares with you, she's not just showing you all the highlights. She's actually showing you that it has taken grit to get there. It has taken leaning into the uncomfortable. But what's going to happen when you sit in this mastermind for 3 days, you sit this really powerful energy, and then you get left to move out into your own in ways. And what happens is those old thought patterns will sneak back in. Those old feelings will start to, procrastinate. And that's why she's saying the action is really important. But we can't change, leaning into the action is really important. But if we keep sabotaging ourselves on another level, which is a deeper level, that emotional level, on who we actually believe we are, it's really hard to make those lasting changes. And it's not something that you can tick off your to-do list. It's not something you can go, right, yep, done that, to help that, seen that. Because there's a lot of people that I work with now that have been doing the work for a really long time and going within, but a lot of it has been done with their mind. They've read the books, they know what it is, they know and can attach it to places and times and moments in their life, but they haven't felt it and moved the energy back through their body where they get to let it go and release it. And also connected to a smaller part of themselves where you can actually nurture yourself through these challenging times. And in business, you want to be able to nurture yourself through challenging times, or it gets uncomfortable. And when you're sort of looking outside of yourself for the fixes and for the ways to calm yourself down or to empower yourself or to navigate through the challenges, you're not going to find it. You're only going to find it within you. And the beauty about breath work is it can meet you wherever you're at. It can meet you when you're overwhelmed and you can calm yourself down. It can meet you when you need to just really ground yourself and embody before you step out and speak and want to be in your zone, because it's about getting out of your own way and really stepping into who you are, to your truth, so you can just let whatever moves through you flow. Because if you're always trying to think, then it's always going to be a little uncomfortable, and it's going to be a little uncomfortable for people to receive if you're kind of judging yourself from that smaller mind and then you're presenting at the same time. You want to just be able to stand here and just be fully embodied and let whatever comes up come up, because you need to be able to trust what you're going to say, because that's what's going to connect to people. You don't want to be thinking about, oh God, did I say it right? Is that okay? Am I going to be good enough? You know, because if all this is going on, it's going to feel really uncomfortable for the people receiving it as well, not just for yourself. So it's getting really clear and embodying all those smaller parts of yourself that maybe you haven't wanted to visit or revisit it or feel, in a sense. And what the beauty of breath work is, we get to do that sort of separating from the mind, which creates fear. And, you know, our mind and our ego is very important. We need to embrace it, not sort of discard it, because it's been our protector. But what the mind can only do is take us to a certain space. And when it gets to the unknown, where you guys are stepping into, you're leaning into your edges now and doing something differently, activating different parts of what you want to achieve and step into, the mind's going to start to freak out. And it's going to freak out because those smaller parts of yourself that it's protecting are going to be going, oh my God, I don't know how, I can't protect you here. If you move here, how am I going to protect you? And they're going to see parts of you we're trying not to feel again. Does that make sense? So it's those smaller aspects of yourself, those disconnected aspects of yourself that you really want to explore and embrace. And we can do that through breath work, because the mind starts to relax. You start to tap into a deeper part of yourself in your body, where you can really feel where it lays, what it feels like. But there's a little bit of a separation, in the sense that you don't have to go through the traumatic experience or the past feelings, but you can connect to it. You can connect to that little part of you and that moment in time, and have compassion and really sit with that part of you to heal it, to forgive it, to meet it with love. And the thing is, no matter what you do, and I think this is something that we have probably not grown up learning, that, you know, our worth isn't attached to what we do or what we have done. And we're not lovable because of what we do and what we have done. We're lovable just because we are. We are worthy just because we are. But a lot of us have grown up realizing that, okay, if we don't do this and we don't do that, well, then I'm not loved. I haven't received love. My mum and dad didn't think I was lovable. So where the separation has come in. But your is not anything you do or anything that you have done. And it's changing that mindset. So when you walk into everything, and it's not how much you get done in a day. It's really how you nurture yourself through what you didn't get done in the day. How you lean into the edges and nurture yourself through feeling uncomfortable. Not shaming yourself every time you haven't done enough or you feel not enough. It's like working out that you don't have to beat yourself up. You can just be in every moment. You can feel where it's attached to. You can have that moment with yourself. Calm yourself down, step out of the mind, connect into where you may be holding that fear. Because the mind's going to keep you in fear. When you tap back into here, into this heart space, into this open expansion, that is where your power is. That's where you get to heal from. You're not going to be able to do it with the mind, with the logic, because it's always going to keep you separated from your truth. So the breath is going to allow you to really drop back in and feel into your body. It's going to allow you to calm down. It's going to slow the nervous system down. And I want to do a few things with the breath today, because I know you've been really in your mind. You've been really focusing on all these new things that Chris is teaching you and offering to you. And now's the time just to sit back and just actually observe how you feel, without the mind racing with all these expectations and things to do and what you have to achieve. I want you to drop back into the feeling of what she's asking you to do. And a lot of that's going to feel uncomfortable because you're stepping into the unknown, into the new. But if you navigate it from this space, the heart space, where you can feel it and not your head space, you're going to actually lean into it easier. If you get to connect it to parts of yourself that may be holding on to the limiting beliefs, then you're going to be able to get to nurture that part and meet them there as well. So it's like you get to sort of reparent yourself a little bit in the moment to nurture yourself. You get to step out of the mind, which is limited, because the mind space for you is going to feel like it's like you're walking into a boardroom. So the mind is like a boardroom where it's limited. It feels quite, claustrophobic. There's rules, there's regulations, there's, it judges it from the past, and there needs to be a future. Now that feels really overwhelming a lot of the time. If you're trying to do your emotional work in your mind, it's only going to bring up fear, and it's only going to cause a lot of limits, and you're not going to be able to get past them with the mind. It's going to pull you back into what's comfortable, what's known, what's safe. If you want to step out of the safety zone and into the unknown, then you need to drop into the body. You need to drop into this heart space. We hold all of our past memories on a cellular level in our body. So when we get to breathe consciously into the body, it opens up all those past energetic things that are sitting in your body and holding you back. We get to breathe through it and let it go. And then we sort of do it from this observer space where we're not our thoughts and we're not the past. We can only be now in the present moment with the breath, feeling, breathing, and stepping into this new part of what we're trying to create. And it's really powerful to be able to use this in your business, because if you are your business and everything relies, especially in this like early part of your business, you need to be able to manage how you're feeling so you can show up. So you can step into the uncomfortable, you can nurture yourself when you're feeling uncomfortable, and you can really step aside. You can really move out of what you've always been to really step into this openness and just show yourself and show up. And sometimes not know exactly word for word what you're going to say. Go with what moves through you. If you know what your business is, if you know how you want to be and show up, just let it be. Trust yourself. And that's where you've got to build the trust by really embodying everything, every part of yourself. Good, bad, ugly, dark, light. There is no difference. It's meeting yourself in the middle of both of those. And we all have parts of ourselves that we don't like. And they're the parts of us that separate us from really showing up. They're the parts of us that limit us from really stepping into our business, really showing up as a leader, really just being open and sharing the truth of who we really are. So I want to just give you a really simple breath technique, because I know you guys have been in your head all day and there's a lot moving. So this is just going to be a really simple 6 breath. I want to drop you into your body, and I just want you to sort of start to feel what it feels like to connect to the breath. A lot of you may have done some deep breath work. Some of you may have never done any breath work. So this is just a really simple one to start off with. And then I'd like to move you into a deeper one where we're going to move through our energy centers, and we're going to do more of a different connected breath than I would normally take on my deeper journeys. But this is just a really nice one that you could probably actually do every day. And it will be a really balancing one, but it will really get into some of the different areas of where you may be holding on to beliefs, and sort of open up a channel for you to sort of step back and feel into your body without the mind interfering. So I want you to just get really comfortable right now. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do a really simple 6 breaths. And I want this 6 breath, through this 6 breath, I want to be able to drop you into a space where you feel really calm, you feel really relaxed, and you're in your body. And I want to be able to get you to a place that you can use this before you step into a meeting. You can use this anytime you're overwhelmed. And you can use this to just find some space in between the mind and feel really grounded in everything you're doing. Because most of the time when we feel overwhelmed in our lives, we're in our heads. It's limiting us. So we need to drop back and get a different perspective and come from an expansive place where there creates this space. And you'll find more space in your day to work. You'll find more space in your day to integrate everything you have to do in a really easy flow. So when you're trying to push and force and make shit happen, stop. Stop, come back into your body and breathe. Give yourself the space to feel what is going to serve you in the next moment, because you're going to be more productive when you step back into your body and into the doing part of what you need to do, the action part, when you've created the space from the mind into the body to find that expansion, to really step in and create from a different space, not from your mind. And that's where your most powerful work is going to come from. That's when you're going to get into this real flow, and then you're going to also be able to navigate when you're feeling a little bit challenged and step and lean into that a little more. So we're going to do the 6 breaths to start off with. So just feel your feet on the ground, close your eyes down, and I want you to just take a nice deep breath in through the nose, and I want you to do a big sigh out of the mouth. Just feel the shoulders fall away from the ears. Feel your feet on the ground. I want you to take another deep breath in, nice and slow, in through the nose. And exhale out of the mouth. Just feel everything relaxing. Have the eyes closed down. Just start to move a little deeper within now. Another deep inhale through the nose. And exhale with a big sigh out of the mouth. Just feel that letting go in the body. Just feel yourself. Just notice how you're feeling after the day. And I want you to just notice your breath, your natural breath. Just inhaling nice and slow. And exhaling nice and slow. Now as you're inhaling, I just want you to notice how it feels as you slowly inhale. And then as you exhale, I want you to listen to the sound as you exhale. So it's going to be it's like the sound of the ocean. So as you inhale, I want you to start to notice yourself creating the same sound on the inhale as you do on the exhale. So it's a it starts to sound like the ocean. So notice the inhale sounds like the exhale. It's drawing it right in through the nose, but the back of the throat, making the same sound as they do on the exhale. Kind of sounds like the ocean. As you inhale nice and slowly, and exhale nice and slowly. Just listening to the sound of the breath. As you slowly draw the breath in, expanding a little more with each breath. And exhale, feel that letting go. Feel the shoulders and the body relax a little more. Just focusing just on the breath. There's absolutely nothing else you need to do but focus on the inhale and focus on the exhale. Just letting the mind relax as you step into your body and just breathe. And I want you to slowly draw the breath in for the count of 6. Nice and slow, counting to your own count. I want you to really drop the breath into the lower belly. So as you breathe now, the lower belly is going to rise. It's going to move up into the chest, expand through the chest and exhaling for 6. So the chest will fall first. The belly will fall back to the spine. So if you're unsure if you're breathing into your belly, you can bring your hands around your belly or on your belly button. And as you inhale, you want your belly to rise, so the hand will rise. Then you'll move it up into the chest and feel that beautiful expansion in the chest. Feel the shoulders fall away from the ears. And then as you exhale, the chest will fall. The belly will fall back to the spine. So we're inhaling for 6, nice and slowly. And exhaling for 6, nice and slowly. Just do one more round where you're inhaling for 6. And exhaling for 6. Just noticing the mind has to release, because all it can focus on is just counting the breath. Then when you get to your next inhale, I want you to inhale for 6. Then I want you at the tip of the breath, hold the breath for 6. And then I want you to exhale for 6. And then hold at the bottom of the breath for 6. So I just want you to cycle this. And when the inhale, I want you to really draw into the lower belly. Feel what it feels like as you nurture yourself with this inhale. If it gets a little stuck around your chest, that's okay. Then when you get to the tip of the breath and you're holding the breath, see if you can relax a little more on the hold. I don't want it to be a stiff hold. I want it to be this letting go where there's just that nothingness. And then on the exhale for 6, I want you to feel your body completely relax on that exhale. Like every muscle in your body is just letting go. And then when you hold at the bottom of the breath, I always want you to feel where there's that nothing to do, where there's this expansion of space. Inhaling for 6, holding for 6. Exhaling for 6 and holding for 6. Just keep cycling the 6th breath at your own pace. Noticing how it feels to nurture your body on the inhale. Finding that space where there is no mind and there is nothingness on the hold. And on the exhale, just letting it flow and leave your body. It feels like your body is slowly melting into that nothingness where you get to hold at the bottom of the breath. You're creating all this space just to be, just to focus on yourself as you nurture yourself on the inhale. Find space of nothingness on the hold. Another level of completely letting go into the physical body. And then the bottom, as you let go a little more, you surrender into the hold. Just keep cycling that breath through your body. If the mind starts to come back in, just come back to the counting, focusing on the breath. Just keep the mind busy so then it can finally let go. Then you can really find this sense of peace, this relaxation where there is nothingness. There is nothing to do but breathe. There's nothing to do but feel and be in this present moment right now, just with your breath. So just cycle the breath again for the last 2 times. I'm going to do 2 more rounds of 6 breaths. So inhaling for 6, holding for 6, exhaling for 6. And then holding for 6. And just noticing those little subtle difference, that little subtle expansion on each inhale. That little peace that you get where there's that nothingness on the hold. And a little bit more where you get to completely relax in your physical body into that nothingness, the hold at the bottom. And then when you finish that last round, the 6th breath, I just want you to feel and sit in this space you've created and come back to the normal breath. I just want you to notice how you're feeling. I want you to notice now that you had the space to drop into your body and just breathe. What are you feeling? That allowed you the space just to feel and not think, to be without any expectation, just to meet yourself, just to feel. There's absolutely nothing else to do. It's creating a space every day where you get to just drop in and listen. Drop into that place where you can hear your guidance, trust your intuition, with no mind, no expectation, just really being with yourself. So just noticing your natural breath. And just starting to wiggle your toes and your fingers. Just bringing yourself back into the present moment. A little bit more aware that you're sitting on the seat. More aware that you're in your room. And just take another deep breath in through the nose. And just exhale out of the mouth. And when you're ready, just slowly bringing yourself back. Opening your eyes. And just bringing yourself back into the present moment. So that's just a beautiful, simple breath that can just drop you into such a beautiful expansion space because the mind is counting. And if you struggle meditating and you have a busy mind, this is such an easy breath to do, to drop yourself into your body. If you're feeling really overwhelmed, drop yourself into your body. If you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed, this is just such a simple technique that you can use. I get my kids to do it. I'll do it sometimes when I just need to sit and breathe. I'll do it on the toilet sometimes. It's just find space. Find space to drop in and feel, and you're going to have so much more space to be creative and really step into the day without the distraction of the mind. I can see everyone's like, whoa. So that's just a really simple one that I wanted to give you something that is really easy to use in any moment, at any time. And especially if you have a busy mind and you have a lot to do and you only have a short amount of time and struggle to meditate, that's just a beautiful place to meet yourself at. Just to really feel your feet on the ground, focusing on the breath. And when you're counting and breathing, there is no mind. You know, and that's the beautiful part. You get to drop in and you get to see the difference from when you're in your mind, the feeling of when you're in your mind, what your body feels like, to when you really drop into that expansive space at the heart and the body and just get to relax and unwind. So it's really important to create that space and that discipline to, yes, be busy and have action, but also to be comfortable in just the being, where there is that nothingness. Because I'm going to tell you now, it's going to create so much more connection to self, so much more expansion in how your day flows, and you can drop in it to any time. You can really use that as your superpower to go from a heightened state, you know, to really dropping yourself into the, you know, into that really present power. Because a lot of the time I've even found in when I channel or when I'm working and I'm pumped in what I'm doing, but my nervous system gets really amped and I get tired even just how my nervous system reacts to having this really strong flow, and I get really excited. But when I can slow the nervous system down and sit in that flow with that creative, you know, channeling through me, it's even more powerful than being heightened and sort of pushing in the sense. So really notice how you feel in your nervous system and body, and it just gives you that sort of a different space to kind of step into than always being this doing on space. You can create from that beautiful expansive space as well. So it's just nice to have the difference. So what I want to do now is, I know that you guys have tapped into some of the things that are limiting you and some of the things that you really want to move through, and you may have recognized parts of yourself that may be connected to, and smaller versions of yourself that maybe connect the past. And you're seeing it play out in patterns in your life now and how you relate to yourself, in that way you push yourself, or that negative self-talk, or if your worth is attached to what you do, and how separated you feel to yourself. And we hold different things in different areas, and a lot of you are probably aware of different energy centers in your body and our chakra system. So what I love to do is, I did a lot of work with Belinda Davidson for a long time, and chakras were a big way that she moved through a lot of her, where you held onto stored energy. And that can relate to your childhood. And as we move up different things, it relates to different things. Obviously, you know, your root chakra is your grounding, present in your body. And then we move up through relationships, inner strength, heart, throat, how we communicate from our heart to our throat. Third eye, which is our knowing, our seeing without actually seeing. And then our connection to source, in a sense, if you know, the connection just to be able to align yourself. So it's really important to kind of have a little bit of awareness maybe of where things are actually sitting in your body. And a lot of that is really nice to sort of feel tension in your body, because a lot of the times it will relate to these areas. So when we breathe and we open up all our energy centers, we get to release. A lot of that we're not conscious of where it's releasing. But today I want to take you into a semi-deep journey, in a sense, that you can actually start to feel a little different and feel a more different power and connection than just a relaxing breath. So we're going to do a breath, and I'm going to take you through each center as we breathe. You can lay down for this if you want to as well, because it's going to be a different technique. I teach a circular breathing technique, but I don't want to take you on a huge deep journey, because I know you've got to step back in. But I do want to take you on one that you can actually use in your everyday life. And this breath is a really simple breath, but what I want to do is I want to really sort of power it up by specifically breathing into each energy center. I want to open those energy centers so they're spinning and balancing. And then I also want to draw in the color that relates to that area as well as we breathe. So we're not only opening and releasing that area, we're tapping into anything that's blocked to release it through the breath. And then we're also powering it up through a color as well at the same time. And if we get to do this through each part, if we do this every day and we're balancing our energy, we're going to be so much more powerful. And a lot of what we want to let go of will happen naturally just by balancing each center. It'll naturally start to move, because, you know, when we start to focus on things we want to change, everything that's not aligned with that change is going to come up. And that's what happens. Like if we come into this relationship and we want to love more, we want to love ourselves more, what happens is anything that is not that love for yourself or love in the relationship or something that you want to achieve is going to come up, because that's what's blocking you. And what happens is a lot of us go, oh shit, you know, this is not what I wanted. I'm trying to create all this amazing shit and all this crappy shit's coming up. Like and then you kind of doubt yourself. It's like, but you know, I really want to step into this, but all this is coming up. But you need to see it from a different perspective. If this is the gift in the uncomfortable of all this stuff that doesn't align with where you're going, and you're only going to embody where you're going when you get rid of the shit that's stopping you from getting there. So don't doubt yourself that when you step into all of this, that things aren't going to challenge you and things from the past aren't going to come back up. And these old patterns that you're trying to move away from aren't going to challenge you again. They are, because you're stepping into new parts of yourself, and some of the old parts aren't going to serve you to hold on to anymore. So see them as when they come up, if you have the awareness to drop into your body and see them not with your mind, but see them from that expansion and go, this is a gift, because I'm about to sabotage myself and I'm about to step into some old habits. So this way you can actually see what it is. You can separate yourself from it and know that you're just about to break through again into this new part of who you are. and letting go of the past. So it sits really deep in the unconscious. It sits in our body. It sits in different parts of our body. So if we can start to balance it with the breath, work into that and release it, we're sort of starting to move through things in a sense without the mind interfering. And I want you to also be able to go, wow, I can remember that moment in time and nurture yourself through it. So you'll get a little bit of clarity when you can step back from the fear of it all, from the hold that it has on you, and you can just let it move through you without any resistance. And that's the beauty of the breath, because we can't do it in our mind. Our mind is always going to stop us from feeling it because it's trying to protect us from the past. It doesn't want us to feel that again. So when we get to breathe through it, we get to kind of become the observer of the experience, and we can see it and feel it, but we get to do it from this empowered place, and we get to move it through the body and let it go. So that's why I really want you to experience this different breath. It's a little bit different from the circular breathing I would normally teach, but I wanted to offer you something a little deeper today that you could journey with, that you can still do by yourself, and then still empower yourself up as well, because you're sort of moving through the energy systems in your body. So the breath we're going to be using today is going to be a double inhale and an exhale. So it's going to be a, so it's going to be like you're sucking through a straw, like through the mouth, not the breath. So you're not worrying about the deep belly breath that we did. We're kind of moving it a little more into the chest now. And it's going to be a sort of a, so you can sort of see it in a circular movement, but instead of doing it a circular like we would normally do in my journeys, I want to do it like very simply that you can do and stay present in the body. So it's going to be a, so there's a sucking on the double sucking, and then a real release on the exhale. So see it as a double inhale, exhale. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you specifically to each energy center as we do it. So find a place to lay down and do this. I think because you may feel a little tingly through the body, you may have a little like sort of lightheadedness. So it's nice to have the experience to lay down. So just listen to my body, listen to my voice as you feel into your body. I'm going to guide you into each energy center, and I want you to do the breath into each energy center. I'm going to change the music so we've got a little bit to focus on here. So just give me a minute. I change the music. So just lay down now as you're laying down, and I want you to just connect into the breath. Just feeling into the body, relaxing. And just bringing yourself into the moment. Notice your body on the bed. Notice your hands laying next to you. And I just want you to be really present with yourself. And as you're breathing and laying there right now, I just want you to notice any niggles in your body. And I just want you to observe those niggles and just focus on those niggles and breathe a little deeper into those niggles, those uncomfortable spots in your body. And just feel and observe and notice if maybe there's a shape to them or a color. And just breathe a little deeper and notice what it feels like. And underneath that, maybe notice what that feeling is, what that tension feels like, what that uncomfortable feeling actually is. Just breathe a little deeper and start to let go of that little niggle in the body. Just notice that you can actually move that tightness, that uncomfortable feeling through your body, just by breathing and leaning into it a little deeper with the breath. Now I want you to move away from that niggly feeling. And I want you to focus now on your root chakra. That is base. The spot where I want you to focus on is at the base of your tailbone. Just by focusing on our energy centers actually activates those energy centers. So just by, with your mind's eye, focusing on the tip of your tailbone is going to activate that energy center. But we're going to superpower and activate it even more with the breath. So as you're focusing on that area, I want you to start the double breath in, exhale out. So it's going to be focusing into that area, into that chakra, and it's going to be a focusing on the tip of your tailbone. Keep cycling the double breath in, exhale out of the mouth. Focusing deeply into that area. Double inhale, exhale out. Double inhale, exhale out. Just notice any feelings that are moving through your body. And just keep leaning into the breath. Keep coming back to the breath. Keep focusing deeply into that root chakra, that tip of your tailbone. Working with the breath. Focusing on that area. You are grounding yourself. You are opening up all of the areas where you do not feel supported in your life. So notice as you breathe, any moments in time that may come up that you haven't felt safe, that you haven't felt supported, that you haven't felt grounded or trusted your body. Breathe deeply into the tip of your tailbone. Double exhaling, exhaling, let it go. Keep cycling this breath. Double inhale, exhaling out. Double inhaling, exhaling out. We're going to do 2 more breaths as we focus into the tip of our tailbone. On your last exhale of the second breath, we're going to do 2 breaths together now. Now I want you to breathe as you inhale. Inhale for 10. Hold the breath, the tip of the breath. Relax. Holding for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now I want you to let go of the breath. Completely let go of the breath. And just sit and focus on that area and visualize red pouring into the tailbone. Just feel that expansion the breath has created as you absorb red, a ruby red color, as it moves into the tip of your tailbone. Just come back to the normal breath. Breathing into the tailbone and just sit with this expansion in this area as this red flows into the tip of your tailbone. Beautiful. Now we're going to move up to our sacral chakra, which is just underneath our belly button. So just focusing your mind's eye underneath your belly button. With all your mind's eye intention, just focusing on this area activates your sacral chakra. Now we're going to supercharge your sacral chakra. So start the double inhale, exhale out. So double inhale, exhale out. Breathe and feel into your sacral chakra. This is where your inner child lays. This is the connectedness of how you relate to yourself and your relationships from the past. Breathe in, double inhale, exhale out of the mouth. Breathing into that point just under your belly button. Inhale, exhale. Allow yourself to breathe and feel as you draw the breath into your sacral chakra. Breathing and feeling. Just allowing any sensations or emotions to move through the body. Coming back to the breath as you double inhale, exhaling out of the mouth. Beautiful. Keep breathing and keep feeling. Focusing your mind's eye into the sacral chakra. Opening and activating this area to breathe and feel. To open and release. Tapping into your inner child. Tapping into any past relationships or past trauma that lay deep within your sacral chakra. So keep double inhaling, exhaling. We're going to do 3 more breaths together into the sacral chakra. Now we're going to do the big inhale for 10. Hold it at the tip of the breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And just letting go of the breath as you're focusing your attention and awareness still into your sacral chakra. And just allow now an orange color to flow into that sacral chakra as you just breathe your normal breath and flood your sacral chakra with the color orange. Just breathe and feel. Just notice any feelings or emotions moving through your body as you allow this orange to flood your sacral chakra. Beautiful. And now we're going to move our awareness just above our belly button now into our solar plexus. This is your superpower. This is your innate wisdom. This is where your gut feeling comes from. So really focus just above your belly button. Anytime you feel unsafe, when you walk into a room, put your hand on this center. This is your power center. If you're a real giver, this center can be really small. So you really want to activate and supercharge this area. So as you are focusing your mind's eye just above your belly button on your solar plexus, we're going to start to activate it and supercharge it with the breath. So double inhaling in, exhaling out. Double inhaling in, exhaling out. Breathe into this energy center. This is your superpower. This is where you trust your gut feelings. And breathe into any moments you haven't trusted your gut, that you've gone against the grain, that you haven't trusted yourself. Feel and supercharge this area so you can start to trust your guidance, trust your gut feelings, know when something doesn't serve you. This is where you start to empower yourself with boundaries. Breathe and feel into this area. Double inhale. Breathe and feel. Keep breathing and feeling into this area, empowering yourself. Breathe. Last 3 breaths we're going to do together. Now we're going to supercharge it, bring it in for 10. Holding it for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And completely release the breath. Just feeling into your solar plexus. And allow this beautiful color yellow to flow into your solar plexus. Feel like this is supercharging your gut, supercharging and this trust you have with yourself, this gut feeling. This is you. This is where you need to charge yourself up to really embody and trust who you are. So allow that beautiful yellow to flow into this area and empower yourself. Nice. Now we're going to move into the heart. Moving into the center of our heart. Our beautiful heart, we may still be a little protected at the moment. We want to open the heart so we can speak from the heart, so we can really feel again and embody ourselves. Through all we have endured in the past pain, we want to let that go. We want to open this center so we can really embody our truth, how we feel, and come and lead with feel us. So let's supercharge this area now with the breath. Inhale, double inhale. Breathe and feel into this area. I want you to release anything that's holding you back from trusting yourself to feel again, from letting go of any past pain, to open your heart, to trust and feel again. So keep breathing into this area, supercharging this area with the breath, and really feeling what you're holding onto, how you're shut down, and start to open and expand this area. Inhale. Breathe and feel. Open and expand. Trust yourself to open your heart and feel and connect to your truth. Keep breathing in and letting it go. Breathing in and letting it go. Beautiful. Last 3 breaths. And breathe it in, guys. Hold it. Just sit in the space. We're holding it for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And just let the breath go. Let it all go. Feel this expansion, this letting go in the heart area. And I want you just to even put your hand on your heart as you focus in on this area. And allow this beautiful color green to flow into your heart. Feel it opening. Draw this beautiful color green as it activates, as it opens, as it expands your heart. Allows you to feel again without protecting yourself. Allows you to really open your heart center, your truth, where you really want to speak from, where you want to open from. So you can really embody the truth of who you are. Just let that green flow in. Feel that expansion you've created in your heart. And just breathe here for one more moment. And feel. Just notice anything that's moving through your body. Nice. Now we want to move it up to the throat chakra. We've opened the heart. We want to speak from the heart. So we want to be able to express it through our throat chakra. So just in that nape of our neck, that little dip we have, just focusing your mind's eye now into the throat. Noticing how it feels in the throat. We've opened the heart now. We're ready to draw that energy up to be able to speak our truth, to be able to speak from the heart. So it's really important we have an activated, open throat chakra. So let's start and activate this area. Let's breathe into the throat. So inhale. Let's let go anytime we have squashed ourselves from speaking our truth. Let's open that area so we can activate, allowing ourselves to speak from the heart, to trust what we want to say, to really feel and know that it's going to be received. And we are worthy regardless. We are going to be loved if we speak our truth, because we love ourselves and we trust whatever comes through us. So breathe into this area. Keep opening and expanding this, activating the throat so you can start to speak your truth. Speak from the heart. Allow it to move from the heart and flow through the mouth, through the throat. Keep breathing. Supercharging this area. It's your time to speak your truth, to be heard, to be seen. Keep breathing into this area, activating this area. Last 3 breaths. Let's breathe it in, guys. Hold it for 5. Feel into this area as we hold. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And let it go. And let it go with a sigh. Feel this expansion you've created in your throat. Notice how it feels to open up this area. Now let's allow, as we focus into this area, this beautiful color, indigo, to flow into that throat chakra. Feel it opening. Feel everything you've wanted to say ready to come through this area so you can speak your truth. You can finally trust yourself because you've opened your heart, you've activated the throat, and you're ready to speak your truth. Just allow that to flow in. Spend one more moment just in that throat center. Just noticing how you feel. Beautiful. Now we're going to move up in between our brow into the third eye now. And we're just going to focus in the middle of our brow, into our mind's eye, into our third eye. Our connection to our seeing, our knowing, beyond the physical. It's just a trust. It's our creative center. So allow yourself to see beyond the limits of your mind. And let's start to breathe and activate your third eye. So let's start the activating breath. Inhale. Focusing on your third eye. Opening up this center so you can see beyond the limits of your mind, so you can activate this creative center, so you can really see and embody and open to the gifts that lay within, that you can channel through this and see more than what you can create with the mind. So breathe into this area. Allow yourself to feel safe, to be creative, to find that expression that is beyond your mind. So breathe and feel. Keep activating this center. Focus and breathe into your third eye. Keep using the breath. Keep focusing on the middle of your brow. We're moving into our last 3 breaths now. Let's breathe it in. Hold the breath. Hold it for 5. Feel the mind's eye opening. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let the breath go. And just keep your awareness and your focus in the middle of the brow. Just allowing this beautiful blue color to come in, this indigo. It's a light blue, dark blue indigo. Pour into the mind's eye. Feel the expansion as you draw this color into your brow. Just breathing and feeling this center activated, empowering yourself, connecting to your creativity, your knowing, your seeing. Just take your last breath here. And now we're moving into the crown. This is our last chakra we're going to activate. The crown of our head, the tip of our head. This is where we tap into the source, into our greater knowing. So just focus on the tip of your head, on the crown of your head. Just focusing your mind's eye is going to activate and open this center. Now we're going to energize this center and really open yourself. So start the breath, breathing in. Breathing into the crown of your head, opening up this chakra to the higher self, your greater knowing, to the universe, to allow yourself to receive beyond our physical realm. Breathing and feeling. Allow yourself to open, to connect, to allow yourself to realize there is more to you than just your physical. You're opening to your gifts, to your creativity, to everything you were born in with. So breathe and feel. Allow yourself to be guided as you connect and open yourself to source. Keep the breath moving. Keep the breath flowing as you focus into your crown chakra. Activating your crown chakra, activating your connectedness to the universe. Breathe and feel. Moving into now our last 3 breaths. Breathe it in for the count of 10. Hold the breath. Feel this activation as you hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And let the breath go. Still focusing on the crown of your head. Just allow this beautiful white light to flow in through the crown of your head. And as you're drawing this white light in, I want you to move that white light to your brow, down to your throat. Move that white light down through to your heart. Moving that white light down to your solar plexus. Moving that white light now down into your sacral chakra. And moving that white light down into the tip, into your root chakra. Feel it flow all the way down your legs, through your feet, into Mother Earth. Now I want you to do that one more time, drawing that beautiful white light through the crown of your head, into your brow, moving that white light down into your throat, moving that white light down into your heart, moving that white light down into your solar plexus, moving it down into your sacral chakra underneath your belly button, then moving it into the tip of your tailbone, into the root chakra, and then allow it to flow all the way down through your legs, down into Mother Earth, rooting you to Mother Earth, as you are now connected to below as you are above, and everything is aligned and supercharged. Just take a moment to sit in your body, coming back to your normal breath, noticing the expansion you've created, the balance through every energy center in your body, and just sit in this moment, in this feeling really aligned, rounded, and connected to your truth. Deepening the breath down into the belly. Nice deep inhales and big exhales now. Just drawing yourself back into your physical body. Bringing back the awareness of your alignment that you've created. Wiggling your feet, wiggling your fingers. Starting to feel your body laying on the ground. Bringing yourself back into the present moment, deepening the breath a little more. Starting to move your body around, stretching, opening the eyes. Just bringing yourself back into the present moment, into the now. And when you're ready, stretch and feel. You can slowly bring yourself to seated. Welcome back, everybody.
Wow.
I try to pack in a lot in that small time, didn't I?
Sister, I just said to Janelle, why don't I do breath work more often? So good. One of my favorite. That was phenomenal.
I hope that just showed you how powerful the breath is, and that aligning yourself and connecting to how you feel in your body and using the breath as that little tool to navigate yourself back in. You get to really feel and step back and find that clarity about your mind making all the decisions for you.
Yes. Thank you, beautiful, so much. I'm so grateful. You know what? Like, breath is something that absolutely changed my life, and it's something that I do regularly, but now I'm realizing that it's literally like needs to be a daily practice, you know. So thank you so much. And I would love for you to share, like, for everyone that's here, I would love for you to just share like what capacity you work with people in, where people can find you, if they want to chat to you. Give us a rundown.
Yeah, well, I sort of work with people with the breath. I work intuitively with people. So I sort of go into, I'm a bit of a shadow worker. I like to work into the depths of the uncomfortable. So I like to really work with people to uncover what's limiting them, and with the breath and with my intuitive guidance, to allow them to release a little bit of that trauma, to be able to step into the power and find the gifts into what they've been through, to bring it into the present moment and empower themselves with what they've been through, and to embody those parts, to reparent themselves, and to really be able to nurture yourself through all the challenges, because life doesn't stop challenging you, and we've always got to lean into those edges of who we are. And I just help you sort of navigate and maybe move through parts of the self that you can't see, and just help you move into those, and hopefully, you know, then find a place that you can move through these challenging times with ease and grace. So, and I also do workshops. So I just do breath, and I also do coaching and breath. So I work one-on-one, and I also coach, and then I do workshops as well. So I do a lot of workshops at Freedom Float if you're on the Gold Coast. I do online group workshops, and then I also do coaching online. So you can find me. My website is melissamelrose.com, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram and all of those handles. You can find me. So yeah, so if you want to do a little more deep diving, you know, to empower yourself and be present and embody everything that Chris was talking about, and feel a little bit stuck with some of the stuff that might be a little deeper, and you're having, you know, that support navigating that, I'm your lady.
You are. Thank you, beautiful woman. I'm so truly grateful. Thank you for sharing your magic.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And
so good. Thank you.
Enjoy it. And be kind to yourself through this whole process, because you've got so much amazing stuff that you're being given, and just be kind to yourself as you integrate it all after this weekend, because you're leaning into all of it. So be kind to yourself as you navigate all of it after. So honored to be here, and thank you for allowing me to, you know, just be in your space and be in your container. It was awesome. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, gorgeous. I certainly did. I could tell by everyone else's face they did. Thank you, gorgeous.
No worries, guys. Thank you. See ya.
Bye, beautiful. So guys, how are we feeling after that? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Yeah, of course. Breath is something that honestly has changed my life, and things that I didn't even acknowledge that were locked into my body really came to the surface when I was, and I do go very deep with holotropic breathing. And sometimes it can be, obviously, when we're working remotely, we actually can't take you through some hardcore breathwork sequences, simply because that it can be, you need to be monitored, and it can be a little bit scary. But I know for me, it's one way that I delve deep. And to really release what needs to be released. And there are moments when you're going through, you could probably even see with that level of breath work that you may have had some tingling, or you may have had a little bit of stiffness in your body. And, you know, maybe that even when you went to hold, you sort of felt some different sensations happening. If you multiply that by about 20, that's what happens when we delve deep into holotropic breathing. And we have to do it in an in-person scenario, because it can be pretty potent and powerful. So you need to be monitored. But I would highly suggest that it's something that you put into your, you know, daily routine to some extent, but even just being conscious of your breath, right? Like, so many of us have, and I know I do it all the time, that we're always in this overwhelmed or this stressed state, or we're feeling like, you know, the kids are playing up, or we're having an argument, or we're feeling slightly anxious about something. And not many of us are conscious of our breath. And you'll notice in those moments of stress that our breath becomes really shallow. And this actually heightens the level of stress that we are experiencing. So I think that this is a beautiful reminder that we can even just regulate ourselves and have that awareness to ensure that we are taking big, deep breaths in each and every moment, so that we're staying grounded, that we're really prioritizing our energy. And this is what I wanted you to experience as a conclusion for today, because I know that retaining all of this knowledge, and when you're in this learning situation, sometimes you feel like your head's about to explode, right? With all the new stuff. And this was this reminder to get you back to center, to get you back to being grounded. So over the next few days, when we're delving into deeper detail, you're going to have this wisdom that you can implement. Even for me presenting, I even took part in part of that sequence myself, because I know when I'm presenting, my mind is always going a million miles an hour. And I'm always reading people, and I'm watching body language, and I'm listening to tonality, and I'm using far too much of this. And sometimes by the end of the day, number one, I get a croaky voice, which is pretty standard. But number two, I feel like I'm all outside of my body, because I haven't actually, you know, really been grounded in that process. And even for me, just after doing the little bit that I did, I was like, oh, okay, I'm landed again. And from this landed place, we're far more effective. When we're outside here and when we're all up in our minds, we're not going to be sustainably performing at our optimal space. So something that you can implement. Okay, guys, so to delve back into what we covered today, we've delved into that little bit of nutrition that we spoke about. I'm going to post either today or tomorrow in the group the 14-day cleanse. And then I'm going to, let me read that. What breath work would you recommend that we could do daily? You could absolutely do that sequence. It's totally safe. And I said to her, just from a liability standpoint, we can't do anything that's too big. Because we can't monitor effectively. So that sequence that she took you through with, like with the chakras, and just focusing your energy on each chakra and then doing the two in and one out, and then holding at the top. You can even play with holding for a little bit longer. That's going to create more of a release. I know the sequence that I do is 7 minutes of the in and out. So but I do it like really intensely. And then I hold for a minute at the top. And then I relax. And then I go into another 7 minutes of the holotropic breathing. And then I hold for a minute at the top. But it can sometimes put you in a hallucinogenic, like a hallucinating state. So you've got to be careful with it. And that's why what she took you through is absolutely safe. Because your body, it's actually where yoga was birthed from. Yoga was birthed from breath work, because yoga is like the attempt at mimicking, and yoga is very effective, but it's the attempt at mimicking the positions that our body would go into when we were somatically releasing through breath. Right? So you'll find that when you go into breathwork sequences that are intense, your body will actually, out of your control, will move into postures in order for the emotion to release out of your channels. So I know for me, I release potently from my hands. So anytime that I have an emotional release, even as a cry, or anytime that I delve into plant medicine, anytime that I do breath work or any sort of somatic work, I'll always release through my hands. And usually my hands will be stuck out like this and my fingers are all locked up in claws, right? So when we're releasing, our body goes into different postures. And this is where yoga was birthed from. But I think that definitely just sticking with T-Rex hands, hell yeah. Oh my God, babe. My T-Rex hands are next level. And my lips always go as well, and they're like stuck like this. Yeah, in a pout. So it's really interesting, and it's something that I'm super passionate about. Okay, guys, so overview of today, we did a little bit of nutrition. I'm going to post the 14-day cleanse for you, talking about being in optimal state. So knowing that our focus and our physiology is what's impacting our state. Then delving into the behaviors and the flow and the success cycle, and the force and the flow cycle, and then the behaviors that are going to impact that as well. So then understanding those diminishing behaviors and having awareness in every moment when they are coming to the forefront and holding us back. And then understanding your relationship dynamics. There's a couple of more components that I'm going to touch on in relationships. And it's sort of around creating connection based on chemistry as opposed to compatibility. And it's just something that I'm going to give a little bit of a brief outline of now, because I felt like, we sort of ran out of time earlier when we were speaking about it. But I think that it's really important in understanding it, especially in a love dynamic. A lot of relationships are based on a chemistry as opposed to a compatibility. And this chemistry is usually based on the blueprint that we've been operating from. So it's like this concoction of hormones that happens within our body when we find someone that actually feels safe and certain. And we develop this chemistry, and you can see very clearly, even making reference to the dynamics that I spoke about earlier. If you've got a mother that was, always wanting to find a man to be of support to her, and she was willing to do whatever she could, this is their version of safety that we understood and we developed. And then this person's chemistry, or the chemistry that they experience with other people, is going to be reflected from the safety that they experience. Then it comes from, and that safety is dictated by the blueprint that this person had created for them growing up. And I think a lot of us think, well, I'm going to take radical responsibility. I'm going to be at the cause. But this blueprint is something that's actually not your responsibility. So the blueprint that you're operating from is not your responsibility. And it's part of the reason that women that have an abusive father usually attract an abusive relationship, because there's not only a chemistry that happens within the body that you're attracted to that, but it also feels safe when it's really not. Because the blueprint that you've been given is not your responsibility, but what is your responsibility is have the awareness of it so that then you can change it. It's only your responsibility to change it. Versus compatibility. Compatibility looks like more so in the way of having aligned values, in the way of, you know, I know for me, one of my highest values is family. One of my highest values is growth, communication, honesty. And if you're in a relationship and these values are completely out of alignment, there's going to be a conflict. And this is what happens. A lot of relationships come together based on chemistry, and then they're together for a long period of time, and then they realize that there's absolutely no alignment in any of their values. And yeah, you absolutely can have both at the same time, sister, definitely. I know I've got both. But it's really having the awareness of whether that chemistry is serving you, because sometimes when we attract a relationship based on compatibility, Kerwin and I, we created a relationship that was compatible. At the initial stages, we've known each other for years. At the initial stages of us meeting, there wasn't a chemistry. Neither of us were in a state where we could emotionally connect. I was in a relationship when I first met him. There wasn't a chemistry. But what we did have was an absolute compatibility. The chemistry only developed when we were both emotionally ready to enter into a relationship, and we were both the capacity and the container that could hold one another, because we're both a pretty big energy. Yeah? So that's when the chemistry came. But the compatibility was the initial part of it, and the chemistry developed. But a compatibility is always an alignment of values, because nothing's going to be sustainable if you don't value the same things. Part of the reason my previous relationship broke down was because my family value is one of my first. He didn't have a value of family on his list. So you can see over time how this creates a huge disconnect. A huge disconnect in a relationship. If you value honesty and you're with someone that lies and doesn't value honesty at all, there's going to be a conflict. If you value communication, Laura, you can relate to this. You value communication and your partner doesn't communicate and doesn't want to change, there's going to be a conflict. So compatibility in relationships is a far healthier dynamic to be operating from. And I just wanted to give you that piece. I mean, it wasn't necessary, but I just feel like it's relevant, because so many of us just opt in for the relationship based on the chemistry because it feels good in the moment and we're attracted to that person, and yet we don't actually assess it from multiple standpoints. It's not a matter of overthinking it, but it's a matter of, you know, saying, all right, is this chemistry or is this in fact compatibility? Is this for the long term, or is this a previous loop or a blueprint that I've been running my whole life and I'm just willing to accept this simply based on the feeling of maybe loneliness? Right? Perfect. So what we're going to do as the task for tonight, you guys are going to have a lot of work over the next couple of days. And this task is going to be fairly, you know, effortless, but also it's going to be very powerful. Now, what's inspired this task is, and I speak about it on a really regular occasion, Robert Kiyosaki speaks about his sister Tamsin, who used to work in a hospice. And a lot of you are probably familiar with Robert Kiyosaki. He's an amazing human being in the personal development space. And he talks about interviewing his sister and asking her, you know, working in a hospice, being in contact with people that are on their deathbed, what their 3 regrets are in life. And I think this is a really beautiful perspective for us to have a look at, because I think that so many of us go through our life thinking that we're untouchable and not actually acknowledging that death is in fact something that is going to happen for all of us. I can guarantee you of that. And I think that when you have this perspective of like being on that deathbed and knowing ahead of time what you're going to regret, I feel like it gives us the ability to make different decisions while we're in fact living waiting until we're dead. Right? So the 3 regrets that she speaks about, the first is, I'll get you to write these down. the unspoken word. Not truly telling people how you feel. How many times have you wanted to tell someone you love them and you don't because your ego got in the way or your mind talked you out of it? Truly telling people how you feel, telling your partner that you love them, telling them that you're grateful for them, telling your children and looking into their eyes and expressing your love and gratitude. The second is the inability to forgive. Not forgiving quick enough. I believe that so many of us hold on to grudges for far too long, and we're not hurting anyone else except ourselves. By us holding on to resentment is like us drinking the poison and expecting someone else to die. And the third is not taking the leap of faith. And that pertains to every aspect of your life, in business, in relationships, in health, doing something that's scary, standing on that metaphorical cliff for the majority of your life, and then one day you finally chose to jump. And it feels so invigorating. So what's inspired this today is that we've done so much work on, relationships and speaking truth and you understanding your deepest version. And this is obviously going to impact you expressing to people how you truly feel. We've done so much work and we're going to be doing so much work over the next 2 days on taking the leap of faith. You're not going to have a way out of that one. And it's going to be up to you guys to hold yourself to a high count to continuously take that leap of faith. Even when everything feels like you shouldn't, know that change is going to be uncertain in any way, shape, or form. But what we're going to be doing in order to release so that we can welcome in the new is we're going to be writing letters of forgiveness tonight. Because what I truly believe is that while we're holding on to old stuff that does not serve us and we're taking up space energetically and mentally with all of these things that have happened in the past, we don't have space for the new to come into our life. So your task for tonight is to write a letter of forgiveness to every single person in your life that you are holding resent towards. You may only have one. You may have 20 because you haven't actually figured out how to express it. And I know I have done this at multiple stages of my journey. I think I wrote about 10 letters to my ex-husband because I was willing to try anything and everything. And it really enabled me to express and experience the emotion so that it could pass through. Now, these letters aren't going to go to the person. This is for you and you only. This isn't for you to share with the group. This isn't for you to send in an email. This is literally going to be burnt. Like literally, we're going to burn them. But what I want you to do with that knowledge, knowing that they're not going to read it, I want you to express. And I want you to express with all that you've got. I want you to rage. I want you to cry. I want you to feel whatever is there. No one's going to see it. So whatever needs to pour out on that paper is what needs to come through. And there is no right or wrong. What's important is that you have nothing left in the tank. That you release it. Once you have written it, sign it off from yourself. And once you have completed all of the letters, I want you to go out there and create a space. So go outside, create a space, set an intention of releasing this with love, knowing that this has served you up until this point, but it's no longer going to serve you, so you choose to hand it over and release it with love. And I want you to light a fire and watch it burn. And then tomorrow we start anew. We've created the space, we've laid the foundations, we've released the past, and now we start anew and we take a different level of action. And we step into the role of leadership, of entrepreneurship, of being a business owner that's here to create impact, to be of service to other human beings, to create change. But as this person, it's your job to do whatever it takes in order for you to be the best version so that you can create that change. And I know all of you are here because you're heart-centered, that you're here to actually, you're not just here in a brick and mortar business that's, you know, there to make money. You're here because you give so much of a shit about people, because I've attracted you. And what's your job is to show up in your fullest version so that you can do that as your life's mission. Because all of the people that have hurt you in the past, it's part of your soul's contract. And you holding on to it is actually inhibiting you from learning in the ways that you need to learn in order to move to the next stage of your development. How does everyone feel about that? Tara Lee. It's time to heal your heart. And you know, the greatest lesson and the most uncomfortable lesson that I learned was when I spoke from that place, I was so much more powerful. But I had to break down the walls. To let people in. And it was my greatest fear. It was my greatest fear to be seen in all of me and completely being exposed with no walls or no masks, in complete vulnerability. That's scary. But it's the most amazing decision that I ever made. But it started with releasing the pieces that were attached to the walls that I had built. Okay, guys. Day one, complete. I ask you to give this your everything, and I will see you back here at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Love you all so much.
Bye.
Bye.